So usually when we start our virtual open houses, because we're on a, we're connecting over kind of our electronic devices, is different from how we would be at a physical space. So we wanted to keep it like really casual and try and have that sense of place in a sense. So we usually start our virtual open houses with like a hello 15-minute segment where we invite people who are joining us for the first time to say hi, tell us about what they are doing, and this time we're doing a very we usually do it internally in our internal meetings. We find it really important to connect with one another other than work, right? So we have this PEMS check-in that we'll do today as well. And we will have maybe Shane start with this segment. So let me just share a quick screen on how that's going to work. Okay. So Shane, would you like to tell us about yourself?
Sure. Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
My name is Shane. So I'm part of the Audacity community here, and working on a couple of the seed projects in the microfactory, our means of production, as well as Project Flourish, which is looking at human flourishing. And so this exercise is part of that ability to check in with one another and also check in with yourself. So it's got 4 bits. I think today we'll just, if someone feels comfortable, can share 1 or 2 if you'd like. But it's a physical. How's your body feeling? Like, did you wake up with a sore neck? Do you feel really strong? Are you recovered from something? And then emotional, like how are your emotions? Like I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm excited, lonely, those types of things. The mental area is kind of how is your cognition? Are you thinking very clearly? Is things a little fuzzy or thoughts jumping around in your head? And then spirit. So it's sort of like, how is your internal compass? For some people, this might be spirituality, but it's sort of how are you aligned to the meaning, purpose, and goals that you have in life? And so this is done like maybe 2 minutes to check in before a meeting. So maybe I'll jump in on, I'll share my physical state. I just recovered from dengue, so I'm feeling so much better. I'm still a little tired. And I guess emotionally that makes me very happy. And yeah, so that'll be my check-in for now.
Okay. Yeah. Raj, would you like to share with us? Hi, Raj.
Hello. Wait, can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Raj. I'm actually currently an undergraduate in NTU, going into my 3rd year this year. I'm from the School of Electrical and Electronic Engineering. I'm actually on an invitation here from Xuan Hui from Audacity. So very glad to be part of here. I'm actually representing this makerspace called the Garage at Triple E. I will be the president of Garage at Triple E for the upcoming academic year. For those of you that do not know, we are a makerspace, but we do more than just our own projects. We really are an innovation hub within the school. We organize events, sometimes competitions, workshops to improve the technical skills and foster a spirit of innovation among our students. So very glad to be seeing you guys, looking at the work that you guys are doing. It's very in line. We are very impressed with the directions that you guys have. What am I interested in looking at the moment? I'll probably talk about my spirit. I think I'm school starting next week. Yeah, so I'm kind of excited, nervous, all at the same time, because I think because of the COVID situation, everything is changing. At the same time, at Garage at Triple E, so we are looking at how to increase the innovation spirit among our students itself. So we are looking at new ways of working, some exciting things coming up. So yeah, it's looking good. Hopefully, we'll be able to do what we have set out to do. Thank you. Glad to meet all of you here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. I know that you're really, really busy with orientation.
Yeah, I just finished actually. Yeah, we just finished about a day ago. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think we have Sabrina here today as well. She's from NTU. Oh, you're muted, so you need to unmute yourself. Yeah. Hi, Sabrina. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Sabrina. I'm also part from NTU, but I'm not an undergraduate, unfortunately. But I'm part of the Career Attachment Office. Yes, I'm also on here by invitation of Xuan Hui. I have been working with someone, Aaron from Age Empathy, with the clean tech with some of the projects. So what do I do is usually at NTU, I bring in industry projects to the students, to the talent in NTUs to see what we can do and support the industry with the projects. Just recently, we launched NTUH Social, specifically to target the social enterprises as well as the nonprofit organizations. So we want to utilize the talent skill sets in our students to help and benefit the community in at large. Yeah. So NTUH is one of our signature programs in the Career Attachment Office. Yeah, that's basically it. How am I feeling now? Pretty tired because I'm recovering from a bout of food poisoning actually. So a little weak, but I'm fine. Yeah, that's all from me.
Thanks so much. Cedric, can I invite you to say hi? Cedric is really passionate about, evolution of human consciousness, technology, and ecology, and he's actually running a global technology innovation consultancy. And they are B Corp certified in Singapore and Hong Kong. So I'm really happy that he could join us today.
Hey, yes, so I must apologize because I am not I'm outdoors. So
okay, we can hear you really well.
Yeah, okay. So thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very curious to hear and to listen to all of you and what Audacity is all about. So indeed, I work with Palo IT. We are a design and software development consultancy. We operate in 5 countries. And we have 12 offices altogether. What can I say? So we work in many different industries. We want to gear the entire complement of the 500 technology experts that we work with towards the things that can improve life, improve society, improve the quality of life. And we do this using technology. We are in the midst of internal transformation in a way where each and every of our value proposition is now being overhauled and revamped to develop this capacity of working, to do towards the common good. So in the field of innovation and design, working on new approaches. In the field of IT and software engineering, we work on green IT and digital ethics and things like this. And also,
I think you have so many synergies with us. So I'm really excited for you to visit our space next week. How are you feeling? You could choose one: physical, emotional, mental, or spirit.
I'll choose spirit.
Okay. How is your internal compass?
So super high, I'm super energized. I'm super excited and joyful to be doing the work I'm doing, and to see that in the midst of these crazy times, the mindset of the people and spirits of people is shifting. So it's great to see that the world is finally looking at the big picture and starting to do the work that needs to be done.
Cool, thank you. I hope you'll find today's content interesting for you.
Yeah, I'm sure I will.
Yeah. Okay, Shane, I guess we can do a run through of what to expect today, and then we can start.
Sure. First up, I guess let me run through our program. So today we have quite a fun program set up. We'll be talking about some economic models on Utopia, and then we'll be talking about some prototyping. We'll get into one of our Startup Unleashed focuses on craft health. Then we get into some food area. We'll have a fun little game with our Slice team, and then we'll all kind of hang out afterwards. So starting today, we get to hear from Jeremy and Youngun. They're going to be looking at sort of the Adam Smith models of the way that economics has kind of been deployed at scale, and what tomorrow might look like, and what are maybe some different or alternative ideas that might shape society during the next phase of our human evolution. So I'm looking forward to this. It'll be a fun economic discussion. So I guess we will get Jeremy and Youngun up.
All right, welcome to Utopia, an applied history with Youngun and myself. I'm Jeremy, Mr. Green. We're going to split this up into a couple of parts. I'm going to start first, and then Youngun will take over, and then we will close it down together. Okay. All right. To begin, as is the tradition in Audacity, we are more interested in finding good questions than we are in having comprehensive answers. Right. So the belief is questions you cannot answer are usually far better for you than answers you cannot question. Questions you cannot answer are usually far better for you than answers you cannot question. I think we come from a very long era of having very definitive answers, very authoritative answers, which worked fine. But I think in this new norm that we're going towards, it's not about revisiting answers we already know, but looking for new questions that might open new pathways. So some of the questions that we've been asking over the last couple of years, for example, why is globalism and multilateralism breaking down? Why are projections for climate change worsening dramatically every year? Why are evolutionists dominating physics, especially if you look at the last few years at the Nobel Prize? What will happen to humans after AI singularity in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? And the question we would like to raise today is, where is our utopia? So we'll break down the presentation into three parts. First, we'll take a brief history of utopia with yours truly. And then Youngun will look at where we are today. And then together we will share on transitions in the near future.
Oh yeah, did anyone else put the face sticker? I sent to some people. It's actually a sticker given by EDB over 10 years ago. I think they were trying to promote made in Singapore products or something.
This presentation is about utopia and applied history. Next slide. We'll start with asking the questions. Based out of the philosophy that questions you cannot answer are usually far better for you than answers you cannot question. That's a quote from Harari's most recent book. Next slide. These are some of the questions that we started asking around 2018 as part of the Audacity exploration in the last 2 or 3 years. We asked a question about globalism. We asked questions about climate change. We asked questions about where the bulk of the research focus has been going through in physics. And especially we ask about AI singularity and the role for humans in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years. And for this presentation, the question we want to focus on is where is our utopia? Next slide, please. We'll break down the presentation into 3 parts. I'll do the first part, which is a brief history of utopia. Youngun will share with you on where we are today. And together we will wrap up the session with transitions and a view of the near future. Next slide. It hasn't moved. Oh, okay. Yeah, no. Oh.
Yeah. We can start off with a poll question. the first poll question on utopia. All right, so we have some interactive component for all our audience here as well. So we'll start off with two first questions before we actually move on. So the first is whether can a utopia ever exist? So yes, no, maybe, pretty straightforward. And which country do you perceive to be the closest to utopia? So just take some time, take a minute to just like log in your responses.
Can you guys see all the options for the second question? How many options do you see on your screen right now?
I think if altogether about six options.
Okay. Do you want to share results?
Yeah, let's share the results.
Oh, interesting. We have a date split between the question, can a utopia ever exist? About half the people who answered said yes, and 43% said yes, 43% said no. So it's a dead heat in this audience. And the remainder said maybe. So I think we are right on the edge, right at the precipice. So maybe this presentation could change your view a little bit. And the second question, which I also found to be very interesting, is which country do you perceive to be closest to utopia? And actually the options that you have been given are the 6 countries where there are most Singaporeans living. So it's Singapore and the 5 countries that Singaporeans like to move to or have been moving to, right? So Australia, Britain, China, Malaysia, Singapore, the US. And there are no votes for Malaysia, no votes for the US.
Just because it was at the bottom. I mean, the US is a total utopia. No one saw it down there.
Some parts is, I think the PR recently has been, yeah, not the best. I think in second place is Australia. And luckily, Singapore is first. Yeah, so it's not too bad, you know. Maybe some of the National Day kind of pride showing through, but at least for the purposes of today, for our poll, Singapore is regarded by our audience as the most closest to utopia. Great. Should we move? Yeah.
Yep. All right, so we have a simple exercise as well. So what we have on this slide is basically an exercise where we encourage all of you guys to create your utopia. So we have some guiding questions to help with that. Have a think about all these questions. So as we actually go through our discussion and our sharing, you guys can think about the answers, and probably we have some time for free flow discussion at the end of our presentation. So questions that will help to guide your thinking could be along the lines of how does that utopia look like? Like what are some of the reasons for choosing or forming this utopian society? What ideals and characteristics are governed by this utopia? And also think about the relationship between like the state, the market, which is the economy, as well as the community, which is all of us, people. How do they relate with one another and how are decisions made? Yeah. Jeremy, over to you.
Okay. Right, I'll continue with my next slide. Okay, a brief history of utopia. So utopia is a term that was coined in 1516. So it's about 504 years old today. It was termed by a guy called Thomas More, Sir Thomas More, who is now the patron saint of statesmen and politicians. And I think he was also sainted by the Vatican. It comes from 2 words, from the ancient Greek, not, and the ancient Greek for place. So it literally means a place that doesn't exist, right? So for those of you who say utopia can't exist, technically you are right. I see some of the cynics like Shuray pumping their fist in victory. But for the optimists, you're also not wrong, because the common usage for utopia is a place that doesn't exist today, but is better than what we have right now, right? So when you think about it, in the year 1516, when they invented the term utopia, the average life expectancy of the country where this term came from was under 40 years old. So I think half the people in this call would be dead by now. I think literacy rates were like 7%. So 1 in 13 person could actually write their name or read. And if you wanted to travel from London to New York, it took you 10 weeks to sail, right? And it was quite a risky journey. So to a citizen, to a Spanish citizen living in the world's richest country in the year 1516, the year 1890, which is 350 years later, can seem like utopia, because 350 years on, life expectancy had gone up by another decade, right? And instead of taking 10 weeks or 80 days or 70 days to sail, the journey was cut down by more than half. It took you 29 days if you travel by steamship, right? So if you look at the graphic on the left-hand side of this fantastic flying objects, is a vision of a utopia painted in the year 1890 for an industrial fair, right? So they were envisioning the future in the year 1890 to be full of flying ships, men tethered to hot air balloons. And you know what? Actually, the world today, we fly much better than that, right? Yeah. So the first commercial transatlantic flight would commence 49 years after the drawing of this kind of vision. And I would say that we have far surpassed the vision of utopia. Yeah, since, next slide, please. Yeah, this is another view of utopia from the year 1959. It came from a newspaper cutting about the brilliance of the future in the Chicago Sunday Tribune, February 1st, 1959. That's not that long ago. It's only 61 years. My father was alive then. And in this vision of the utopia, knowledge and information was free-flowing, and every family could have an electronic home library, which contained vast quantities of knowledge. The text is a little bit small, but what they had was an idea of microfilm that could be stored at home in such large quantities that you could access like encyclopedias and vast libraries of knowledge, right? But when Kindle came out in 2007, 48 years later, it contained far more information, far more knowledge than this electronic home library concept, and it took up far less space. So again, a vision of utopia has been surpassed by actual reality. So what I would say is, no matter how great you think the future can be, more often than not, it turns out to be even better, right? Next slide, please. Yeah. So our hypothesis is that the concept of a utopia is beneficial to humanity's progress. A new compelling utopic vision will inspire and mobilize the best of us to make it happen. And when you look at the last 300 years or the last 400, 500 years since the concept of a utopia, we have set many utopias and we have surpassed those, right? And I think we will continue to set new utopias in the future, and we will continue to move and bypass those as well. Yeah. So next slide.
All right. So I think what Jeremy has covered basically is the history of utopia, right? And I think if you want to think about how we should transit to a more positive future, it helps to think about where we are today, right? So what is the current state of our global economic system? And some of you might have heard of this person called Ray Dalio. He's actually the founder of Bridgewater Associates, which is actually the largest hedge fund in the world. And he wrote this in a blog post in 2019, explaining some of the, the craziest things that happen in our society and why they're happening and why he thinks that they are unsustainable. So is it true that the world has gone mad and the system is broken? So let's find out. So if you look at GDP, right? I mean, GDP stands for actually gross domestic product. So it actually captures the total output or the total value in terms of goods and services that a country produces. So what we have seen or what we're being told is that GDP over the years has risen and has grown, and therefore society should be richer and happier, right? But somehow within us, we just feel that it doesn't necessarily feel true. And several red flags have kind of shown up. So over the next few slides, we're going to have a look at a couple of these red flags and what they really mean. So the first red flag is this disconnect between GDP as well as wage growth. So the line that you see in red is actually showing that GDP is steadily increasing, whereas the people who are living in the economies, the people who are receiving salaries and wages, are not being compensated as fairly, right? We don't see wages rising as steadily as GDP is. So this is the first red flag that we see. The next one is on rising inequality. And inequality can kind of be captured in a very simple measure, which is the proportion of income that actually goes to the top 1% in the society. So Thomas Piketty, which is a famous economist who wrote the book Capital in the 21st Century, which is a best-selling hit in the New York Times, has a couple of graphs which he's quite famous for. And one of the graphs is the one that you are actually seeing in the slides, which is the transformation of the top 1% in the United States. So the line to watch out for is actually the green line, which shows how fast the share of income going to the top 1% has been rising since the 1980s. And if you look at the graph, Piketty in fact showed that World War I and II were the only periods of time where inequality did not increase. So ever since 1980, inequality has been rising steadily. And I think we have also gotten the sensing that politically we see populism happening, we see a lot of anti-capitalist sentiments. And the common rhetoric we're hearing is that, oh, the rich do not pay their fair share, they're not being taxed enough, the system is rigged, and they got to where they are because of things like crony capitalism, etc. So something in us is also getting a feeling that something is not right, right? And the next red flag that we see over here is how happiness does not correlate with GDP. So going back to the argument about GDP, we'll expect countries with higher GDP to have happier people. But those we consider as advanced economies or more advanced economies like US and UK, their people are actually not exactly happier. As such, it is not so much about the size of the pie. It's not about growing the pie and making it bigger, but rather how that pie is being sliced. And let's look at one more red flag. And that's really the global debt levels that we see across the world. So just to get the technical jargon out of the way, debt level over here means how much governments are actually borrowing to run a country or to fund specific projects. So we have seen how debts can be really dangerous in light of the sovereign debt crisis. We have heard of countries like Greece defaulting on their sovereign debt, right? And it's especially dangerous under two conditions. The first is when a country has very limited reserves and assets, such that it can't pay off the debt. And number two, if they are borrowing for the wrong reasons, right? So compare this, right? A country borrows money to refinance old debt versus a country that's borrowing to fund important projects that can reap long-term benefits. Of course, you'll say that the second one is better. But the thing is that a lot of times countries are subject to these two conditions. They don't have assets, they are borrowing for the wrong reasons. And therefore, debt is so dangerous because if they continue to borrow more and more and more, at some point, debt will just exert a negative burden on growth, on economic growth. So if you look at the graph that we see over here, the chart on the right actually is a graph by Ray Dalio, which shows the typical cycle behind the rise and decline of empires. So I think the big question we should really ask ourselves is, where are we on the big cycle now? Are we steadily going up on the upslope? Do we have more room for that to grow, and that means we can continue to borrow? Or are we already at a peak, which is right before the decline and impending economic downturn or recession? So I think that's something to think about. So I think what we can kind of realize or come to a conclusion is that, which doesn't take a genius to think about this, is that, we don't really see a future for our next generations. We don't see a future for our grandchildren, not on the environment front and also not on the economy front. GDP has been rising steadily, but we see ever more wage stagnation, poverty, rising inequality, and many more financial crises. populism, as well as the negative effects of climate change. So how do we arrive at this state, right? Like, why are we actually on this downward spiral right now? Many people would say that capitalism is the enemy. Capitalism has failed us. But I think it takes a certain level of understanding of what capitalism is as well. Are we really against capitalism just because of our current understanding of it? Are we thinking of capitalism as a pure, uncontrolled, unregulated, laissez-faire capitalism, where the state and the market is actually separate? Or do we have other definitions of capitalism that we refer to? And one helpful resource is actually just looking back at history, right? History offers some important lessons and insights for us as to how capitalism has evolved over the years and how economic thinking has also changed. So if you look at this interesting graph over here, at the past 70 years, you can actually split into two dominant forms of capitalism over two main blocks of time. So the first is actually the golden age of capitalism, which is post-World War II. If you think about post-World War II, right, there was a clear need for a lot of governments to rebuild national economies for the better. They accepted that they had a vital role to play in terms of driving and directing economies. And that means really investing in infrastructure, investing in healthcare, investing in education, investing in innovation and transformation of industries. And in general, the system worked very well, right? Until the 1970s, there was a lot of optimism, trade was improving, and economic revival was actually happening. And then there was a period of time during the 1970s and 1980s where there were a couple of oil shocks and what the economy deems as stagflation. So stagflation is basically where you have stagnant economic growth and inflation at the same time, which means basically not doing so well, right? So during that period of time, there was actually a group of economists that got together and they wanted to change the way the economic thinking was being discussed. They argued that state control was ineffective, state control was bureaucratic and inefficient. And this group of economists, later known to be the Chicago School of Economic Thinking, began calling for minimum government intervention. They didn't want governments to be involved because they felt that markets were always right and free market is the best way to allocate resources, right? And this actually led to the next wave of the age of market capitalism from the 1980s to what we see today. So I think many people will be familiar with the terms like laissez-faire or free market economics, and that's actually where it came from. Neoclassical or Chicago School economics really started in the 1980s, where people called for lower taxes and lesser government intervention. But has market capitalism actually served us well? I think that's a question that we should ask. And if you look at the past crises that happened, right? So dot-com crisis or the global financial crisis of 2008, we see that it happened because of a lot of under-regulation of financial markets. We see that there was a lot of debt-driven consumer spending because of low interest rates, and all these are unsustainable. But yet we keep telling ourselves that this narrative of growth is better for us. We keep thinking that free markets, lesser government intervention is better for us. If you look at this next slide over here, what the stats or what the data actually shows us is that the golden age saw better performance on almost every measure compared to the age of market capitalism. And you can see from the rate of GDP growth, you can see from the level of unemployment, which goes to show that some level of state activism is actually helpful. Not everything should be just left to the markets on its own. And the chart on the right actually shows that. So it shows how wealth to the top 1% has actually changed over the years. And during the golden age of capitalism, we see that a lot of workers actually got a bigger share of economic gains, which is what we want, right? We want wealth to be shared equally amongst everyone who has a stake. Whereas in the age of market capitalism, you see that the wealth is gradually going back to the top 1%, and inequality really starts to exacerbate. So is this a case of modern economics gone wrong, right? With all this bashing of free market economics, does it mean that modern economics is no longer applicable? Does it mean that the principles set out by Adam Smith, whom many would consider to be the father of modern economics, are irrelevant anymore? Or are we just interpreting it the wrong way, right? If we look at the invisible hand. It's actually a famous concept that was coined by Adam Smith. And many people think that it's about free competition, open trade, and minimal government interference. But is that necessarily true? If you read like The Wealth of Nations, what you realize is that it's actually underpinned by a lot of other values like efficiency, balance, and justice. And fairness has to be a core part of economic activities. We often think that we can just leave things to this all-powerful, invisible hand, right? That's working for the greater good of society. But maybe the reality for us is that it requires a very visible hand to promote society's interests. And then we hear the term of free market. What does free market really mean? Like, does it mean total unrestrained freedom of the markets? If you think about that, perhaps if we take it literally, we would really end up in complete chaos, right? Because just imagine companies being allowed to do anything that they want, short of physical violence to increase profits. That would lead to complete chaos. You have tobacco companies selling cigarettes to kids in schools without any restrictions. So maybe what free market really means is not a total unrestrained freedom, but basically every market will still abide by some form of rules and boundaries without having excessive regulation by the government, not necessarily no regulation by the government. So if all this talk about capitalism, should we discard capitalism altogether and start from a new slate? Or what we require is basically some form of variant of capitalism, something that is more purposeful, something that's more enlightened, something which is echoed by Joseph Stiglitz, which is one of the Nobel Prize winners in economics. So he mentioned that capitalism will be part of the story, and but it can't be the kind of capitalism that we've had in the last 40 years. If you do that, you end up with what has happened in the US, with not just inequality, but also the opioid crisis. You have companies and large corporations denying that there's climate change, tobacco companies denying that cigarettes are bad for health, and instance after instance of what could only be called reprehensible and immoral behavior. So what options are available for us, right? If you come to think about it, capitalism actually comes in many different forms. It's not just a single mono definition. And I think this chart puts it quite nicely. It shows you two extremes. So one where the state has actually a lot of control in society, and the other where the state has no control and it's totally being run by private organizations. And maybe what we're interested in is not so much about the two extremes, but basically what lies in the middle that is interesting for us. So I'm just going to point out a couple of established variants of capitalism that we have seen. Probably the ones that we are most familiar with. The Anglo-Saxon, which is the dominant free market thinking, is actually being practiced in the US and UK. And it's also known as the liberal kind of market shareholder capitalism. So they care about people who own the shares and own stakes in the company, and is dominated by neoliberal democracy. On the other hand, you have the Nordic kind of capitalism, which is stakeholder capitalism. So it means caring about the welfare and of the employees and the workers who are in the firms. And it's a lot more coordinated. So the state has a role to play and plays quite an active role in ensuring that there's social balance, fairness, and justice. And then we have the kind of system that most of us grew up with and are familiar with, the Singaporean state capitalism, where most of the macroeconomic planning is actually state-led. So it's led by the government. And in terms of our institutional arrangements, it's a lot closer to the Nordic model. So governments retain a part of the control, but yet at the same time allowing private sector to innovate and become more efficient. So there's actually a recent panel that's really quite interesting. For those who are interested, you can give it a watch. And they actually ask very, very pertinent questions. So they ask questions like, what role should the state play in society? Should governments be bigger following crises like COVID-19? And I'm so proud of our DPM, Taman, who actually represented us in this panel. And he said one thing which was really quite impactful, right? He said that the question actually isn't about whether states are big or not. It doesn't help whether you have a bigger government or you have a smaller government. But the main thing, if there's anything that the crisis has taught us, is that the government has a role to play, not trying to do everything, but focusing on the things that matter. And what are the things that matter, you might ask, right? So things like healthcare, education are fundamental public goods that should be enjoyed by everyone. regardless of your socioeconomic status. And it's important for governments to have that renewed sense of moral purpose and also the spirit of activism. And activism in this sense really means organizing private sector players, driving a sense of collective responsibility, right? We all don't want to live in a state whereby, oh, because the government tells me to do A and I do A, right? But a more efficient way to govern the state and how the state relates to the private sector would be the government has a particular agenda, and perhaps they could incentivize private corporations to do something that will encourage us to do good for society in general, right? So I think one of the key takeaways is really to focus and reprioritize on the things that really matter for society, and the government has a role to play in that. It has to be a coordinated effort by the state, the market, as well as the community itself. So after all this discussion, I think we need to ask ourselves what kind of system we really want, right? Are we looking for an economy that is fairer, that is more inclusive, less exploitative, less destructive for society and the planet? And if we want to envision a different kind of society, we need to measure the correct thing as well. Very often, we are driven by the things we measure, right? The outcome or the output. And because for many years now, the dominant thing that we measure is gross domestic product, all of our efforts are actually channeled towards GDP growth, right? We prioritize on the economy only, about the profits that are gained by corporations and whatnot. But if we want to imagine a different society, we need to measure the things that we care about, right? So apart from GDP, are there other indicators that should be prioritized? Are there other things that we should look at? And I think some of the terms here are not foreign to all of us. Things like Human Development Index, we've probably heard of it. It's actually a summary measure of the key dimensions of human development. So longevity, a long life, being knowledgeable, and also having a decent standard of living. And we see a lot of these overlaps in concepts such as blue zones as well. So the blue zones are actually areas or regions where people have been found to live a very, very long life. And they were actually interested to study the characteristics that made them have a very long life, right? So things like, interesting things like having wine at 5, exercising regularly, eating whole foods, eating plant-based foods. So I'm not sure how true these are. Maybe some people over here might have experiences living in blue zones. But it's interesting to see because the end outcome is that they want people to lead more fulfilling and longer lives, right? So if we set that as our priority and we set that as our outcome, maybe our policies will be more coordinated and would be aligned towards that. So I think before we move on to the last segment that we'll be covering, we can do a short poll. It's actually the third question that we have. So thinking about utopia and the ideals, we really want to find out which of the ideals resonate with all of you the most. So maybe we can pull out the poll questions. Yep, so which of the following utopian characteristics do you value the most? Is it about people living harmoniously? Is it about the natural world being embraced and revered? Embracing social and moral ideals? Encouraging individuality and innovation? Or society continually evolving with change to make a perfect world? So just take some time to cast your votes. Okay, maybe just like 10 more seconds. All right, shall we see the results? So most people actually voted for the last option, which is society continually evolving with change to make a perfect utopian world. So I think we talk about being a resilient society very often in Audacity as well, which means that in the event of external shocks and change, we want a society, we want systems that are robust enough to be able to react flexibly to those changes towards a better world. Right?
Yeah. I think the last one is really interesting because I don't think there are any limits to human imagination. So no matter how great a world you create, somebody else can always imagine a better version. So it's almost like a journey with no ultimate final destination. Yeah. Which is a journey I would really enjoy. Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to the last part then, where we talk about transitions and the near future.
Oh, thank you, Yang En. Yeah. Actually, on Yang En's last slide, right, I'd just like to comment that Taman, who's the senior minister in Singapore, he actually chairs the UN Human Development Committee. So I think Singapore has actually a bigger role to play than we like to imagine. Of course, as a country, we are tiny. You know, it's a rock, right? But the fact that we are kind of, I like to think of Singapore as the capital of the emerging world, the capital of the poor world. But that's also where most people live. And I think if we engage more with our geographical neighbors and the kind of background that we all came from together, we could probably make a bigger impact than we currently do. And maybe Tarman will be the first of one of the early contributors. And I hope maybe eventually all of us could be such contributors. Okay, I think I'm two slides down, right? Yeah. Right now, if you look at where the world is today, 2020 is such a bad year, so much bad news. It's like we flipped the switch. But actually, a lot of the stuff that's happening this year have been building for a while now, right? So I would say today where we are, based on our expectations, we are probably closer to a dystopia than a utopia, right? We have a small group. They said 30 years ago, we were talking about the 10% richest in the world, exploiting the other 90%. But now we're talking about the top 1%. And in a few more years, we'll be talking about the top 0.1%. So money is kind of being concentrated at the top, right? So right now we're talking about a small and limited group with absolute control. Wars are being fought. Lives are being lost at huge numbers to provide for a limited pool. There's a common enemy for the public to rebel and break free from. This is happening across different countries, and every different country will have a different version of it, right? I think it's very hard for us to say that there's one country that shows none of these symptoms. Yeah, even like some of the Nordic countries, right, which are regarded as kind of like the benchmark for perfect societies. They are straining with kind of like nationalism, racism, a lot of social problems as well. Yeah, a scarcity of resources, and everybody seems to want to go to a simpler times. I heard a really interesting anecdote, right? If any of you have been lost before while you're with your friends or with your family, usually when you go out with a group of friends, right, and you get lost, what you do is you try to retrace your steps, so you go back to where you were when you last saw everybody, right? So the parallel is that society has been doing the same. So the reason why Donald Trump is in power is because a lot of old people are really uncomfortable with where they are. They feel lost. So they're trying to retrace back to the 1950s, which was the last time they felt secure, right? Which is why they're trying to roll back abortion rights. They're trying to roll back anti-gay rights. Gay rights. They're trying to roll back a lot of reforms, right? They want racial segregation. So that's a quite interesting parallel. I would think it's fair to say that where we are today, we are kind of like in the pink zone, and we are moving, hopefully, in the right direction towards the blue zone. I don't think we are anywhere near that yet, but there is more energy building up for that. Next slide. This is a really interesting chart. It came out January this year, just before COVID broke out. It's a little bit small, but if you look at the four quadrants, right? On the top right-hand quadrant, it's called the worst quadrant, right? So these are events that have the largest likelihood of happening, and if they happen, they have the worst impact, right? And right at the top is climate action failure and extreme weather. And even a conservative like our founding Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew said that the ultimate threat to human survival is global warming and climate change. This is like the one biggest threat that he feared towards the last days of his life as a politician. At the opposite end, right, economic problems, terrible as they are, will not end life as we know it. For most of our 20, 30, 40, 50-year history, we are talking about economics. we talk about deflation, we talk about like recession, we talk about unemployment, but those problems have a bad impact, but life will go on, right? And then at the top left, infectious diseases. COVID-19 is one such example. It has worsened many other risks, such as food crisis, migration, social instability, and state collapse. So right now, I would say that we are closer to dystopia than our version of utopia. But what we need to do is we need to imagine a utopia. And once you can imagine, we have a direction to navigate. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah. So while we were doing this, preparing for this presentation, we found a really interesting story. It was a story about Monopoly. I think all of us would have played Monopoly growing up, or most of us. What you probably didn't know was Monopoly was originally invented as a game to demonstrate the pitfalls of capitalism. Right. Next slide. This is the mother of Monopoly. So she's an amazing lady called Elizabeth Maggie. When she invented it, she was 48 years old. She was never married. She was a feminist. She was an activist to stop slavery, and she wanted to reform capitalism. So she invented this game called the Landlord's Game. And under the Landlord's Game, she had two versions of this game. She had a prosperity rule and she had a monopolist rule, right? So under prosperity rule, every time someone acquired a property on Monopoly, everybody gained, right? And the way to win the game is the person that starts out with the least money doubles the money. Then everybody is declared a winner. So it's like a very collaborative, everybody wins type of mindset, right? And then she had the flip side, which is to demonstrate the opposite outcomes when we don't work as a collaborative effort. Under the monopolist rules, whoever bankrupted everybody else is a sole winner. And in 1935, 31 years after she invented it, Parker Brothers copied the concept. They started selling it, and then they realized that she owned the rights, so she bought it off the estate, and then they killed off the prosperity side of the game. Which is why Monopoly, the way I was taught that this is the way capitalism works, is actually so straight, so far from its origin. Yeah. Next slide, please. So we want to talk about some of the alternative models that have come up. Some of these overlap one another, but we'll just kind of present with you like it's a raw form. There are quite a handful. The one that's been making a lot of headways this year came from, I think it was started by Iceland, but Scotland, New Zealand, they all kind of proposed it kind of in close, in quick succession, right? And what was interesting is they were all proposed at a time when these countries had female prime ministers. Yeah, so I think there's something to be said about having an alternative approach, an alternative lens. It's called the well-being economy. And what it is we should focus on well-being and happiness, not neglecting economics, not neglecting productivity, not neglecting GDP, but we should start first with the well-being and happiness of the citizens. Yeah. Next, please. Second model, this is also really interesting. It came from a Nobel Prize winner, Eleanor Ostrom. Again, one of the few females to win a Nobel Prize in economics. I think the ladies are coming up with the more innovative and more alternative approaches right now. And her view is, if you can't stop capitalism, what you can do is you can balance it by having really strong commons. If you strengthen your global commons, if you strengthen your localized commons, that will act as a balance to capitalism, right? So what commons are like a public park, that's a common. So it's something that's shared by everyone. Or the public library, that's commons because it's shared by everyone. Oxygen is a common. yeah, water should be a common, right? And if it sounds like very obvious, it's not really the case, because water used to be for everyone, which is why they valued it at almost nothing. So what you have are big corporations buying up water rights, pumping it all at a very low price, and trying to sell it at a very high price, right? And increasingly what we are seeing is the same for oxygen, air as well. Air, because it's part of the commons, it's valued as free, and because it's free, there is no value. So it's very hard to protect. So it's getting really abused. So we need to find new ways to strengthen and protect all these common kind of like assets, like fresh air, clean water, yeah, knowledge. Next slide, please. I'm going to run through the next couple ones really quickly. Amsterdam donut model. This is the one that, for those of us who attended Tom Bouchard's SID framework workshop, we are quite familiar with. That's why he built it up on. It's gaining a lot of traction now as well, especially in continental Europe. It's basically taking society and the planet before economics, right? If the planet is the golden goose, we shouldn't kill it. Next slide. This has some overlap with the earlier models. It's just a slightly different way of looking at the common good.
Yeah,
quite popular in Austria. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I should just add on for this slide, right? I think what's interesting is that they were advocating actually for a common good kind of balance sheet instead of the typical financial balance sheet that you see. So a lot of times, we put profit, corporations and companies put profit over anything else, above everything else. But what they're trying to advocate is, employee welfare, the dignity, the solidarity between employees, and all these will credit into doing good for the common pool of people, and they'll get plus points for doing that. So quite an interesting perspective.
Yeah. This is more popular with the corporates, but so far I think it's mostly like smaller corporates or volunteer organizations that have adopted it. I think there's one more, and this is the most fun.
Yeah.
Obviously, I doubt it's going to happen, but it would be quite cool. So if capitalism is a monopoly game, we have a ceiling of 999 million. At the moment you hit that, you get a medal, and then you can go and hang the medal in your living room, and then you can go and do something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to give the concluding statement, Yang-En?
Sure. And so I think what we have covered over here in terms of alternative models is really just the tip of the iceberg. I think there are a lot of different models that people are proposing everywhere, alternative ideas that are coming up, which I think all of them have very, very plausible merits, right? All of them have good points that we can take away. And it's not so simple to just, take what is good that we see in other countries and copy and paste it to our economy. I think every country or every nation, every economy has its own context, and we shouldn't take things out of context. But how each country could possibly move forward is to find and understand where they are at now and what are the values that they want to achieve moving forward. So what are the kind of outcomes that they want to measure? And by measuring the right outcomes, which is what the people want, not just what the governments want, then they can all move towards that. I think in this final slide, it's actually a quote, quite a nice quote by Niccolo Machiavelli, who says that there's nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. Because the innovator has for enemies all those who have done well under the old conditions. So change is hard. We need courage to change, but because it's a hard path, it does not mean that we should shun away from it, but rather we need to face it, because let's all face it that the status quo is no longer tenable. And I really like the comic that's on the right. We see COVID and everything. It's a lot of measures now are meant to kind of mitigate the effects of COVID. But what we don't realize is that if we don't take the right steps forward, we're going to face even bigger challenges, right? This is just the minimum viable catastrophe that we see. We're going to have recession. We're going to be faced with the effects of climate change, and eventually the worst of them all, biodiversity collapse. So let's not be drowned out by that wave. Yeah. And we'll just end off with some recommended reads that we found useful while preparing for this as well. So these are some of the good books. We have other articles that we would love to share. We couldn't show everything here, but if you're interested in any of these conversations, debates, or discussions, you can drop us a ping at unleash@offhaven.co, and we'll be happy to discuss. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for sharing about the economies that we need to kind of actually understand and take note of, because we keep talking about innovations and technology, but I guess having this in mind, we kind of need to think about the utopia that we also want to direct our innovations to. So the next segment, we will be having Xiu Zi from JTC, Xuan Hui, and our young innovators, Jun Yong and Zheming and Alan, to talk about what it's like to be prototyping in Singapore, taking Made in Singapore to the new level. ST, are you here?
Okay, hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is ST here from JTC. I'm from the New Estates Division. Basically, we manage all the different new estates in Singapore, industrial estates in Singapore, but specifically Jurong Innovation District and Woodlands North Coast. So today we are here to share a little bit about an exciting collaboration that we have upcoming with Mistletoe as well as Singapore Polytechnic. So I really like what Yang An has shared just now about on the codes, and I believe it is a very good lead up to what we are about to share right now. So this event that we are bringing to you is very much on innovation and encouraging prototyping. I'll go a little bit more into that. As you may already heard, like recently, I think there's a major push from the government, you know, on all the different innovation projects and how we should enhance our innovation and research efforts in Singapore. And of course, that is fantastic, because given the current situation, this is exactly what we need to really sharpen our competitiveness. But of course, we as matters, I mean, myself included, I think the word innovation has been quite broadly used. So many a time we'll always think like, oh, you know, innovation may not be for us, and it's only for people who are more skilled, technical people who have that kind of who are experts in their own fields, basically. So we hear that particularly a lot when during our interaction with like students and from IHLs and stuff. So that brings us to the next point of like how we want to bridge the gap, because the last time when ourselves, JTC, Mistletoe, and Singapore Poly came together, we were just thinking like, hey, you know, can we develop something that will help bridge the gap, you know, make it interesting. And because we have under our purview is Jurong Innovation District, which is Singapore's largest, advanced manufacturing hub, innovation district, as well as Singapore's largest living lab. We thought it's a great opportunity to maybe test out this particular initiative or this particular event within our district itself. So maybe just to share a little bit, beyond just an advanced manufacturing hub with all our ecosystem of advanced manufacturers, urban solution people, as well as logistics companies, we are also Singapore's largest living lab, in a sense that we are able to, there are many of those new industry relevant innovations as well as solutions that are being test-bedded within our estate. So one of the key things that JID is very much focusing on is on building collaborative culture, you know, encouraging hands-on experimentation and creation, promoting innovation, and of course, we also recognize that connections are really important. Providing opportunities are very, very important for our community these days. So that is also something that we are working towards. So with that in mind, of course, how we want to do it is to introduce this Designathon 2021. And we are sharing it today really because we wanted to get a sense from the community on how interested everyone is in participating in something like this. May it be in the form of you may be playing the role of, say, a mentor, a trainer, a speaker, or even a participant. So for Designathon 2021 is is a design sprint, basically, for aspiring innovators to co-create all the different solutions that address like challenges for cities of tomorrow. So in short, it's something that we want to work together with our community to come up with like different solutions and innovations for maybe even estate challenges or bigger problems that we will be facing in the next few decades, kind of thing. So maybe just to go a little bit more in depth about what it is about. The target participants, what we are looking at is to reach out to our innovators, which is yourself. I'm not sure how many of you guys are in Singapore or overseas, but regardless, I think this is an opportunity for all aspiring innovators, really, and we'll be opening up the same opportunity to our partnered IHLs, the different students, as well as their alumni, and also, of course, our GID community. So our GID community comprises, of course, of all the different companies within our ecosystem. And like I mentioned just now, they range from startups all the way to large MNCs, dabbling in areas like advanced manufacturing, urban solutions, and logistics. So in terms of time period, we are opening it for many months, a few months rather. November this year is what we are planning to, is the time we're planning to launch it. And we are hoping that we can close it sometime in end April. So it's unlike your regular hackathon, which is probably like less than a month or so. But this time around, we have a longer period really because we want to get more quality submissions and we'll want to work more closely with the participants to develop something of value. So participants will not be working alone. They'll also be working with mentors from, like I mentioned, our GID, Mistletoe, and SP community. So we'll gather like experts from the different fields or industries to come and provide advice or even share their expert opinions on the different concepts that were being developed by the participants. So maybe just a brief background on what it is like. In November, we will start something like a briefing on the event itself. So we'll share on the different themes, the broad themes that is. And of course, interested participants will take it back. You can form a group of 2 to 3 to start up something like this and do up a preliminary concept design. Subsequently, you can do a submission. We'll do a shortlisting. The shortlisted participants will go through like a series of workshops and joint ideation to help further develop their ideas. And with a more concrete proposal, you can do your second round of submission. And of course, we'll do another round of shortlisting. And this final group of participants will enter the development and prototyping phase with their mentors. And hopefully we can derive, even the first cut of the prototype can be something more of with professional advice, that is. And of course, lastly, we'll curate all these different projects and get them ready to share it at our next platform, which is the Prototyping Festival. I'll share a little bit more on that later, but maybe I'll share with you upfront first. You'll probably be thinking what the challenge statements are. They are very much inspired by the Audacity's Perma Colony teams. I believe you guys know about this event, but basically we are touching on how we can tackle like problems of future cities that will be faced by future cities. So you'll be touching in areas like on areas like food, space, resource, well-being, things like that. How do we create more livable spaces? How do we maybe do like circular manufacturing, things like that. So there will be various different topics that you can touch on. So it's not just, you're not just going to be limited to these 4 aspects, but there's also a wildcard where you can define the future of your choice. So basically you can come up with any innovation projects that you have in mind. Yeah. So in short, why Designathon? I think the primary reason really that we thought of was to trigger a mindset change. Start small, maybe a small change or a big change, it doesn't matter. The key thing is to raise some awareness that innovation is for everyone. We can start with something more hands-on, we can start experimenting, and who knows, you know, small ideas can be developed to resolve big problems in time to come. And of course, we want to promote ideation and hands-on experimentation. And given the current COVID period, is especially important to provide also a platform for the young talents to upskill themselves. So we have like a series of workshops and trainings to help them enhance their skill sets. And ideally, of course, if we are able to get really good high potential projects, it will help us also develop a pipeline of quality innovation projects that we can potentially test bait within our estate. So as an events lined up, just to share a little bit more, earlier this year, we have launched our project Co-Create. It is a collaboration with the IHLs and their final year students to develop like solutions to tackle existing problems in our estates. So we were very specific with the student groups and say like, you know, we want to design outdoor cooling system or things like that, because we have identified specific problem statements within Jurong Innovation District for people to challenge themselves. Yeah. Then of course, now we are bringing this whole project one notch higher. We talk about Designathon, where we tackle bigger problems such as challenges of cities of tomorrow. So both projects, eventually, whatever ideas and solutions that came through, we will curate, and hopefully we can bring all the high potential projects to our prototyping festival, where we can showcase them to all the different industry partners that we have aboard. To share a little bit about the prototype festival itself, it is likely to be an online festival that will bring together like our industry experts I mentioned, innovators like yourself, different talents, young talents especially, to celebrate innovation, creation, and solutioning through prototyping. So the emphasis is there on creating and prototyping their own solutions. It is going to be held right after the Designathon. So it will likely be happening sometime mid-May 2021. All the details are currently for this event are to be confirmed because right now we are still in the planning stage, but rest assured that we'll try and create as exciting content as possible to support all the different participants. And of course, we want to do this digitally because we anticipate that the COVID situation is likely to still be there. If not, if it does improve, then of course we will also explore other physical alternatives. It could be a hybrid where we potentially bring all the different participants down to Jurong Innovation District to share a little bit more about the different smart factories that are inside, and also perhaps to showcase all the different prototypes that were being built during this process. And of course, for this particular event, there will be various industry partners that will come on board to join us to learn about the different inspiring stories and projects that are available. So the students, as well as the different communities that our partners will bring in. Tentative program, give me a second. For the tentative program, we'll have an opening on JID just to share a little bit about our innovation efforts to date. And also we'll invite different keynote speakers from our JID companies or our JTC partners, Minnesota partners, or SP partners, to really share about the different innovation projects, prototype related topics. Could be something even like the future of 3D printing, things like that. And another segment will be dedicated to the sharing of shortlisted projects from our Project Co-Create and Designathon. Hopefully we'll end off with a bang, but the highlight of course remains a surprise for now. We'll let you know closer to date. Let me see. But for the prototyping festival, because it's just going to be a showcase platform, the objective is slightly different in the sense that it really serves more to inspire people. So whoever who come on board and join us for this fest will come to learn a bit more about the different ideation process and the design journey of our innovators, and hopefully take away some useful information on prototyping. We are also hoping that we can indirectly create this platform for talent development and recruitment. So if the industries do see potential in the innovators who are being showcased, there could be some good opportunities to do this, to do their recruitment bit. So how we want to do this, I think we're sharing with you guys today really because we want to get your buy-in perhaps to join us, even as a mentor, a participant, or a trainer like I mentioned just now. So the value that we hope to bring to our participants really includes being able to work with industry partners and building new connections. The various workshops and trainings will hopefully help them upskill as well to have the kind of skill sets that is being required by the market right now. And of course, leverage on the new resource platforms to develop their ideas. This includes things like our makerspace or the different makerspaces that we have right now, or we are working with our partners to have. And all the high potential projects will get opportunity, of course, to showcase at our prototyping festival, to develop it into the proof of concept, which I think is the most important right now, because to be able to showcase your project within a growing district, I think there's a lot of potential to eventually bring it to fruition, or it could possibly also spin off into more meaningful collaborations in time to come. There will be also recruitment internships or opportunities, recruitment opportunities by the JID companies or partners. Lastly, there's also the early entry submission to Moonshot Permacolony Challenge. Because like I mentioned just now, a lot of teams are very inspired by this challenge. So naturally, the shortlisted projects, the high potential ones, will stand a very high chance of getting into this particular challenge itself. And in terms of creating value for our partner, so partners referring to, of course, those people who join us as mentors, not so much as participants, but mentors or people who want to do a training or keynote speakers. So for example, like the mentors, you'll be able to co-develop and implement proof of concept in JID. So access to young talents, seeding new ideas, getting exposure to the different new like-minded industry partners. And I think particularly in this current situation, the opportunity to connect is really, really priceless. We want to create a kind of platform where all the different communities can come together and easily interact with one another to form new ideas or new collaborations. So I think we'll try and make it as easy as possible, and hopefully something more meaningful will come out of it, because this is how we always see it. Like through our past events, there are many instances where we see connections being spun off into very meaningful collaborations. So maybe to end off, it's a pretty short presentation because it's meant to be a teaser rather, to welcome you guys on board and join us for this particular exciting collaboration. So I think Xuan Hui will be sharing a little bit, or rather maybe doing a poll, I guess, to find out a bit more of your interest and see whether you're interested in joining us on this journey and play maybe a bigger role in terms of that of a trainer or a mentor or even a participant. So we are not so concerned about skill sets. So for those who are sitting in, if you feel that you're a student or whatsoever who are keen to try your hands out in experimentation, please feel free to just indicate your interest as well. So that we can contact you closer to date. For now, there's still like 4 months away. We have time to really brush up on the content and also, of course, bring you more new exciting ideas along the way.
And this poll happens to be anonymous, so we won't know who answered what. So if some of you are interested in being an industry mentor,
it's not anonymous.
Oh.
We will know who.
Okay.
So that's the reason, right? So that we can get in touch with you if you're interested. Sorry, Shane.
So okay.
Technology, I guess. Don't worry. It's just this fault. Yeah. Because we need your contact in order to keep you updated on all the different news and stuff. So even if you are not interested this time around, maybe you can just think about it and indicate your interest, and who knows, you might be more keen to join us once you get more information. Yeah. All right, so that wraps up my presentation. It's a short one, so hopefully we can come back again and share a little bit more details on the Designathon as well as the Prototyping Festival to all the innovators community out there. Like we really hope to get your support on this, and especially as mentors, because I really believe that your experience today will be extremely valuable, especially to our young participants or our participants who are joining. All right, thank you. Xuan Hui, over to you. You have anything to add? Or?
So next we have Zheng and Jun Yong who will be sharing about the harvester robotics. Yeah.
Okay, can you guys see the slides?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So, hello, I'm Jin Yong.
Wait, there's an echo.
Okay, sorry.
Hi, I'm Jin Yong. So earlier this year, me, Xuan Hui, and Zheng got together to work on harvester robotics. So currently, me and Zheng are interning after we ORD, and we are enrolling into uni just next week. Yeah. I'm going to NUS, and Zheng is going to Georgia Tech. Yeah, with this, Zheming, do you want to begin?
Sure.
Yeah, so the COVID-19 pandemic has brought about a greater disparity between the nature of jobs as a whole. Individuals in higher risk jobs are not necessarily rewarded with higher income. The job market is very unequal, with some high-paying and comfortable, low-risk jobs, while many work in boring, repetitive, and usually low-wage conditions.
Yes, there are many jobs that are considered boring and repetitive. These jobs are typically the 3D jobs, which refers to the dirty, dangerous, and difficult, which are jobs that are characterized by the bottom right-hand quadrant in the slide. Some of them include logging, deep sea.
Okay, so there are many jobs that are considered boring and repetitive. The jobs that are typically the 3D jobs, dirty, dangerous, and difficult, and are jobs in the bottom right quadrant of the slide, such as logging and building construction and maintenance. While they are necessarily important to society, these are jobs that not many people would want to do given a choice. The wages of such jobs are not proportionate to the harsh and dangerous working conditions experienced by workers, and many work in exploitative conditions. In an ideal future, this phenomenon should not exist anymore, as automation removes the need for these jobs.
With this in mind, Audacity has started a seed project, DMC World, which we have been working on. For now, I'll just play a short introduction to DMC World and the introduction to the team behind it. Hi, I'm Zheming. I like coding and robotics. I know, it's not exactly the most interesting combination in the world right now. For me, I started off doing Lego robots. I did it for a few years, but I had no idea what I was doing. Eventually, I saw my senior building a remote control plane. I thought it was interesting, so I thought, why not? So I decided to build remote control planes instead. I crashed a few planes, or maybe like 30 of them. I built more planes eventually and managed to get one to fly. But I still had no idea what I was doing. And yes, you probably get the idea that my robotics journey involves me not knowing what I was doing each step of the way. But it's still an interesting learning journey for me. For me, robotics was great because of its potential to build robots to do tasks that humans wouldn't want to do or are too dangerous.
Hello, I'm Jin Yong. I started robotics when I was 9 years old. As a young boy, what I really love about robotics is that I could build and create anything I wanted. I was not bounded by pragmatism or judgmentation, and there were literally zero boundaries, except for cost for me. As I aged, I realized that robotics is more than just a toy. There are many real-life applications for it, and they can really change the world, especially replacing the 3D, dirty, dangerous, and difficult jobs. I felt stronger for this, especially after my national service term. Having taken part in many high-risk activities such as parachuting and long route marches in the army, I felt even more so for the need of technology to prevent exposing humans to unnecessary, dangerous, and back-breaking tasks.
I love traveling, and my favorite country is Mongolia. When I first went there, I was so excited by the ability to connect with nature and environment. Herding sheep in the mountain on a horseback was definitely one of the best experiences ever, but when I shared that joy with my host dad, he was really unimpressed. If only we could all live the life we wanted, we choose our way of living rather than something we're born into and forced into. I believe with proper utilization of technology, lives can be more equitable, with freedom as a key core value every individual has the right to.
DMC World is an open innovation ecosystem focused on digital twin-based games with real-world impact. Currently, we observe that the gaming industry is booming. Almost everyone indulges in games at some point in their life. So we could use this time to translate to getting meaningful work done by creating a mirror world built upon the principles of peace, wellness, and environment. We can redefine the nature of jobs and work. In the future of automation, the actual 3D jobs will be outsourced to robots, while humans can remain engaged in the work through the virtual world. Humans are kept safe in the comfort of their own home, while dangerous tasks are still completed.
In the future, anyone can do extremely dangerous work safely and with minimum training. This reduces the risk to workers while increasing accessibility to jobs by reducing the barriers to entry for individuals to partake in any forms of work. In addition, these jobs can be gamified and made more fun and interesting as the strenuous physical components of the job are handled by robots.
The MCO was founded to solve the landmine challenge. These landmines were left behind during war times and have killed and injured many over the years. There's currently estimated to be 110 million landmines, and every year, 5,000 people are killed or injured by these active landmines. The current most effective and reliable way of removing landmines is human demining. Yet, for every 10,000 landmines removed, 2 human landmine removers are killed and 4 are injured.
Asia is largely contaminated with landmines, and often these landmines are found in poorer countries such as Laos or Cambodia. In these countries, we can find that people live in dangerous conditions right next to minefields, which is definitely not an environment humans should be living in. While there have been agencies such as the United Nations that are actively pushing for the removal of all landmines to provide a safe living environment for individuals, it is much easier said than done. The cost of landmines is much lower than the cost of removing the mine itself. Demining is about 100 times more expensive than planting the landmines, which makes it very economically challenging, especially for developing countries to remove all the landmines. Currently, it has been estimated to cost over $100 billion to remove all these landmines around the world.
In Cambodia, there is an estimated 3 to 6 billion landmines left behind from the reign of Khmer Rouge. The country had originally pledged to remove all landmines by 2000. Since then, they have requested for 2 extensions with the current extended deadline set as 2025. Apart from the terrains making human demining even tougher, human demining is also perceived as a means to give locals a chance to improve their lives with higher pay, thereby increasing the inertia to combat this problem. These landmines affect the overall standard of living of Cambodians. Removing all the landmines in Cambodia would double its agriculture production and give locals better access to education.
For the initial phase of the project at Audacity, we launched a pilot trial where we will establish a virtual farming community enabled by robotics and automation, which will allow individuals to harvest any kinds of crops safely, joyfully, and easily. For harvester robotics, the initial focus is to build a sweet potato harvester, since the process of harvesting a sweet potato is similar to that of removing a landmine. Also, in light of the discussions of self-sufficiency, sweet potato is a crop that is highly nutritious and thrives well in our climate.
For our initial prototype, the concept is to have a mothership as the main robot, which takes on the common functions of locomotion across the farm and storage. Other functions, such as digging and harvesting, are delegated to smaller baby bots that are transported by the mothership. This concept helps to simplify the designs of the individual robots, as there are a lot of different sub-functions required for a sweet potato harvester, due to the complexity of the process. Putting all of them together would constrain our design to big and bulky robots that have limited applications. The individual baby bots will collaborate with one another and are specialized to serve their functions well. Our design includes a storage compartment for the harvested sweet potatoes, which is located just beneath the electronics compartment. We use a Ferris wheel mechanism to make better use of vertical storage space. We have 2 categories of baby bots with distinct functions, digging and harvesting, with a greater emphasis on digging for our current prototypes.
The first is a rolling spear mechanism. As most mechanisms that dig well involve some form of rotary motion, we identified using this with a textured outer shell to dig. There is an inner board in the spear that causes the rotation of the spear. Our digger board is specialized in digging compact and dry soil. The mechanism consists of multiple scoops, which scoops up the soil into a temporary storage space within the mechanism. Spinning the digger in one direction digs up the soil, and spinning in the opposite direction releases the soil. The worm board is designed to harvest the sweet potato. After the digger boards have successfully exposed the sweet potatoes, the worm board will come into harvest. Servos are connected between parts of the robot to create a wiggling motion. The rounded form factor ensures it is more streamlined to move well while partially submerged in soil. In addition, a blower is added at the front to remove any remaining soil to facilitate the harvesting process.
In the future, we envision a farm that can be remotely operated with the use of multiple robots collaborating together to accomplish tasks. These will be under the control of humans that are potentially thousands of miles away over the internet. This enables us to create a safe working environment for humans. It also opens up the potential for gamification for a more enjoyable experience. Okay, that's the end of the video. Yay. Okay, for today, we have prepared a short live demo for one of our baby bots, and I'm really excited about it. But first, I'm just going to play a short instructional video on how to use the robot. So a quick introduction to our robot is that it is using Telebot to control. But Yeah, currently we have allowed only, we will allow our user to use it later on, but yeah, we're going to play the instructional video now. Is my screen shared?
Yes.
Yes, I'm screen sharing. Okay, yay. So yeah, just a quick, just a brief background. This is the Telegram app. Yeah, if you want to use the bot, you need to download the Telegram app. You'll send the commands via the app to the robot. Okay. And yes, now I shall hand it over to the team on site at GID for the live demonstration. Screen share.
Okay, yes, hi. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay, hi, sorry, we have a bit of technical errors just now because we couldn't hear drumming. But yeah, right now we have our setup on site. And Shane, could you help to spotlight Colleen's video? Okay, yeah. So you'll be able to see Colleen's video, and then I'll be getting a volunteer, Shure, to help control our robot from Westwood. Yeah, so she's not with us on site now, and she'll be controlling the robot through the telebot. So right now on your screen, you'll be able to see Shure's share screen of her Telegram bot and also Colleen's video. So you can drag the slider on your screen to make the video bigger. Yeah. I think
Hi everyone.
Yep. So Shure, you can start anytime you're ready.
Yeah, so for some context, we are like separated. I'm in my home and they're at GID. And how this works is we are connected on a chatting platform called Telegram, where they have linked the Telegram chat as a input for commands to the motherboard of the harvesting robot. So the idea is that anybody can control this from anywhere, but for the purposes of today, I'll be the one controlling the bot. Yep. So I'm going to start by moving the bot forward. And then I can stop the bot from moving. And let's maybe make it move a little bit more. Yeah. Oh no. Okay, now I can make it go backwards because it's out of the frame. And the bot can turn as well. So you can see it's all it's all live. It's honestly a bit difficult because of the lag time with the bot, but all in all, if this goes well, we'll be able to control the arm of the bot and also the spinning of the contraption so that it can dig. So, Shenhui, can we use the spin forward command, or is it not ready yet?
Our spin forward command has a bit of problems right now.
Okay, but it worked earlier today. So basically,
Yeah,
when you use the spin forward command, it can hypothetically dig for the, dig the soil.
Maybe.
Yeah. You can show. So you can let it turn until it reaches to the orientation that you want it to go. And then you can stop it. And then you can make it go forward. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Shure, for the live demonstration. Yep, and that kind of concludes our part. So jumping back to you.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, thank you,
Thanks,
Shure.
Shure. Okay, and yes, that sort of concludes our presentation as well. We hope that you enjoyed it. If you are interested in joining us, currently for future plans, we are looking at creating a game, like a game interface for the robot so that you can control it. So the person can play a game and control the robot, which will make it more entertaining. But yeah, we are open to talking to any one of you that are interested in the Minecraft as well. You can email sjeremy@misoto.co, or you can email Xuanhui as well, which is xuanhui@offhaven.co. Thank you so much for your attention. Stop my screen share.
So we have
Yeah,
Alan.
so
So next up, we have Alan, going to be giving another prototype demonstration. Alan, where are you, Alan?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, but I can't see you. Ah, there we go.
Alan, nice to meet you. I'm here with the Audacity folks in the Slice Cafe upstairs, and prepared a short presentation about our efforts in making another type of machine. Let me sit down. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Hi, so I'm going to give a 5-minute presentation on tips on prototyping fast, and then play a video that Colin had made about one of our machines. So I am Alan Shi. I have a PhD in applied physics from Harvard, and then my undergraduate was in theoretical physics, and I'm currently the science advisor to Mistletoe, and I have quite a bit of experience in prototyping, but everyone's prototyping experience is different. So let me just share my tips, which are quite simple, actually. So the first thing to understand is some of the philosophy behind prototyping, and that really helps to inform how to go about it. So the big idea is what is R&D? Prototyping is the essence of R&D, because R&D is innovative activities undertaken in developing new services or products or improving existing ones. So what we want to do is go from idea to product, and then oftentimes we're stuck on idea, and you just stuck there forever until at some point you're able to cross that gap. So that first step is quite important. So in terms of the big picture, on the right here I have a plot. On the y-axis is the business gain, and on the x-axis is time. And as you can see, over time, R&D is plotted, and what R&D is a cost in terms of time and finances. So it's best to minimize both if the goal is to maximize your net gain. Generally, the longer you sit on something, the less the gain might be if you're eating into the potential lifetime in most cases. And then in this plot, it's quite interesting because you know, you're negative while you're doing R&D, and then while you're doing R&D, you want to keep in mind the end goal. There's two end goals here. You see it where the tail is, there's one tail that's a D and one tail that's L prime. And D means that, you know, the product was successful for some certain amount of time, and then the interest just died out. So then no one's buying your innovation anymore. But actually the end goal is really to settle on a new norm, which is L prime, so that the product is adopted into everyday life, and you know, people's ways of living are fundamentally changed for a very long time. So we have to keep this in mind. And then the third thing that we have to keep in mind is, how do we quantify the journey? So personally, I'm a fan of using NASA's technology readiness levels, often just called TRL. And I think often this is used throughout different government entities as well as companies to quantify which stage of technology development you are at. And it's always very important to be able to quantify in order to gauge the time and the resources put in. So starting from the bottom, just TRL1, that's when you have your first idea and then you're conducting basic research. And when you basically have a good idea of the technology involved, then you're moved up to TRL2, and then now we're tasked with the task to prove it in the simplest way possible, just to prove that the technology as we envision it works. And then after that's done, we're moved into TRL3, and here we really are just developing an MVP for the product, the minimum viable product, where we just have to put everything together together into a system that works. And often that's immature, just beginning, which is TRL3, and then slightly more mature, medium maturity is TRL4, and then well done is TRL5, at which point then you start demonstrating the technology, doing the initial tests to see how the product performs. And then that's also similarly, there's a rare, medium, and well done. And then by the time you're well done, TRL7 there, a lot of finessing has to go into the system and subsystems. That a typical innovation is it's a composition of several subsystems. It's the simplest innovation is taking two things that already exist and then combining them together. And then as you extrapolate from that, you could take three things and put them together, four things, put them together. And it's only quite rare when something completely new, a completely new subsystem is developed. Most of the majority of the innovations, even though they seem new in collection, at the very fundamental level, they're a collection of things that humanity had developed in its past, and now we're kind of standing on the shoulders of giants. So we finesse those, and then that's also in a three-step, like medium, rare, medium, and well done. And then the final goal is TRL9, meaning that it's safe, it's ready to go, and once you're there, you can actually bring it to market. So I try to distill the four major steps of climbing the TRLs as much as possible. So the four big steps you must take to climb the TRLs. First, you have to make a shopping list. I'm just trying to be as practical as possible. Because sometimes you might not know how to go from paper to product. So you make a shopping list. This is very difficult, actually, to be able to think through what you need to buy. Once you buy it, number two is quite important, because once you buy, you have the materials that you need to build things. It seems simple, but that's what you need to activate the physical prototyping stage. And then three is you put it together. That's it could be the easiest among these. It's but during step number three, you'll discover a lot of challenges and annoying things because you can't put it together as you thought. But once you do this, once you do 1, 2, and 3, you basically climbed one rung of the TRLs. Now you go back to step 1, and then you keep doing this over and over again. So you do this 9 times approximately. You might be able to climb from TRL1 to TRL9. So let me give an example. I have a company, it's called Singapore Heavy Engineering, and this example is called Virusstorm. So because of the coronavirus, we developed an equipment to kill it. The issue is that as far as we identify, there's no way to efficiently and effectively kill the virus. By efficiently, we mean that minimum time, cost, operational complexity, and labor intensity. Effectively means to have a perfect kill efficacy, like all the viruses are killed, no mistakes and no missed areas, because when you have people or robots or something, sometimes there might be a programmatic error, or a person is wiping down the room, and then they have no idea if they wiped everything down perfectly or they just missed, you know, a square centimeter, or even, it could be even more. So we began this project in February 2020. And Colin made a very nice video for us to highlight, you know, the prototyping stages that we went through, which I'll show. But I want to show that this is what we started with. We start with the issue. And then the first thing that we did was to write down the shopping list and then buy the parts, very simple parts, which in the beginning was just a hair dryer and some, you know, some minerals. We stuffed the minerals in the hair dryer, and then it seemed to create, we seem to be able to climb from TRL1 to TRL2, just like that. So how it works is, you know, we're using ozone to sterilize air and surfaces in buildings and airplanes and whatever, you know, wherever there's the virus, you need to decontaminate it. How it works is, on the right here, I have the plot of ozone concentration versus time. So the process is we need to boost the ambient ozone concentration. Ozone is a gas. It's toxic to the virus and bacteria and all sorts of things. So we boost it to a higher concentration in the ambient air, and then we hold it during the whole time the virus is killed. And at the end, we need to reclaim it again. We need to break it down to make the area safe to enter again. So I've illustrated here O2 in normal oxygen in the atmosphere coming into the system and coming out as O3. And then to reclaim it, to break it down, we have O3 coming back into the system. There's something that breaks it back down into breathable O2. So on the left here, I have a you know, a scientific drawing of how we're generating ozone. Basically, apply electricity to some little structure. And then as the air flows past that structure, electricity energizes the air to turn the O2 into O3. So there's air in and then ozone out. And then ozone is just 3 oxygen atoms. So it's 1 more than a normal oxygen molecule, being O2, so it's O3. And that extra oxygen atom in the molecule is very reactive. So it, you know, it's used to burn things. So it's kind of like they call it oxidation. So whenever it touches any organic matter, it goes in and then it takes the carbon in the organic matter and then it reacts with it, form a gas, and it takes it off. And then that really damages these small creatures like viruses. Yeah, one thing to illustrate more clearly is, I'm just going to give another anecdote, a scientific anecdote. Like, this might make it more clear. How does it damage organic matter? So one thing that you can consider is, it might be completely off topic, but you know, weight loss. You know, people often think about like when they're trying to dieting and on losing weight. It's like, if you're losing weight, body weight, what's actually going on? Where's the weight going? Are you peeing it out? Are you pooing it out? No, definitely not. It's the weight is mass, right? It's going somewhere, and you're actually breathing it out. And that's the riddle here. You know, your breath by breath, it's CO2 that you're expelling from the body, and then that carbon plus O2 is CO2, right? So carbon plus oxygen that came in became the CO2, and that little tiny bit of mass that you breathed out just made you a bit lighter. So ozone is the same. That extra oxygen here is oxidizing the virus and making it go through an accelerated weight loss program, and then it just disintegrates. If that makes sense. So I just want to show I'm quite satisfied with the prototyping results, because we got this tested by a third party. That's our goal, to reach TRL9. So I want to demonstrate, I went from TRL1 from an idea all the way to TRL9. We got this tested by the most highly regarded third-party testing lab here, showing for both E. coli and MRSA bacteria that we can reduce the population, or we can kill the bacteria by 99.9998%, regardless of distance. You know, it says like 50 centimeters, 100 centimeters, 150 centimeters. We can kill it, like, because it's a gas. Ozone is a gas, so it can go everywhere. You can go into fibers, you can go behind the chair, you can go under your shoe. It's gonna kill everything on every single nook and cranny, regardless of position and distance at this percentage. So, so for us, this gives us the confidence to move it from the lab and try to push it into the market, which is what we're trying to do now. Thank you. Next I'll be showing someone will be helping me share the video. And if you have any questions I can help with, you can always contact me at these email addresses.
And then after I'll be sharing a video now, so I'll interact a screen share.
Let me stop.
Okay.
So this is the first version of the prototype that we made to kill the virus. You're just using normal ambient air to generate the ozone, to do the sterilization. And then after the process is done, we're breaking it back down into normal air. We started on this after the outbreak started in China. It might have been early February, where we had demonstrated a proof of concept in terms of the technology, and then we wanted to try to build it up into a contained system as much as possible. And then we did a lot of testing on it to see what the issues were in terms of, you know, the systems integration in order to iterate and create the second version. The biggest problem that we found out was that it wasn't effective enough in its performance in generating enough ozone to kill in a very short amount of time. So from this, we learned that we need to make this much more powerful and efficient. This is the second version of the machine, and it's we kind of went overboard. It's kind of a beast. You know, our target this time was to make it super powerful, to compensate for the weakness in the first version. In this machine, we have ozone generators up here, and then ozone degenerator down here. Electricity, which is delivered into the generator components, and that energizes air, especially the oxygen in the air, by ionizing oxygen, splitting it up, and then recombining into 3 oxygen atoms, which is then ozone. Underneath it, we have the ozone degenerator, which is one of the first things that we tested to be able to go ahead with this idea, because we need to have the ability to break down ozone, which is in high concentration toxic gas. So we need to break it down in order to guarantee its safety. And the way it works is it's like a catalytic converter in a car. After we made this, we realized that you know, in terms of making this into a product, it's not, there's some like very glaring drawbacks. It's difficult to service, it's quite bulky. We realized that we can make it much more streamlined, smaller, and you know, better for the customers in the end. So we embarked on making another version. You can see the logo is, and the name is over here. It's called Virus Storm, and it's basically a play on words on virus, storm, and firestorm, because, you know, we want to burn the hell out of the viruses using this technology. To, you know, it's a war on COVID that we're trying to initiate here. Air goes in here through this hole, and it goes out other side through this hole. You know, the technology here using ozone is very special because it's a broad spectrum biocide, and that it can kill all manner of microorganisms, irrespective of its form. So ozone will react with any organic matter to oxidize it and then basically burn it up without the heat. For viruses like the COVID-19 virus, it's quite small, and actually there's not that much organic material, so the smaller the microorganism, the easier it is to burn up. So it's actually especially weak to this type of attack. And we've designed this version to be more consumer friendly. Let's turn this thing on. The set point at 6. Let's run this for 30 seconds. And then run the other part for 30 seconds. Done. Let's run this.
That was amazing.
Hi, I'm back. Is there any more time for questions?
I think we could. I think
no more time.
We might be at time.
Thank you all for listening to the presentation. I hope it was helpful. You can always contact me if I can help in any way.
Well, but it's so good. I feel like we should field some questions.
Oh yeah, ask me.
Yeah.
Maybe.
How much electricity? Jaden asked, how much electricity does it use?
Currently that machine runs at 1 kilowatt. That's the energy consumption rate. So it's slightly less than a hairdryer.
And there are no other inputs. It's just electricity, right?
Yeah, it just takes electricity. And typically we need to run it for 1 hour to kill, on that certificate that I showed, to kill the 99.9998%. We need to run it for 1 hour. Yeah.
What's the size of the room?
Oh, everyone's asking the same kind of questions at the same time. Nice. The size of the room is, that we ran in was about 4 meters by 4 meters large, by 3 meters high. So.
Okay.
And we envision this to be placed on airplanes and rooms, offices, elevators, schools, hospitals, everywhere. Yeah, but it's not typically safe to run it while people are around, so you have to exit the room. Although there has never been a recorded case, to my knowledge, of anyone being killed by ozone. It's quite a gentle toxin, I think.
Is it very noisy?
Okay.
It's a bit noisy sometimes.
Yeah. Great. Amazing. Well, I think if you have more questions, we can take it with Alan, which I'm sure there's a lot more, because I think you guys are planning a rollout very soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Henry. We are.
Yeah. I just received a notice from Jan that we have next invited speakers ready to go.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Alan. Incredible stuff. And actually, starting with ST's presentation on the upcoming prototyping festival, I think it ties very nicely into some of the ideas that we had collectively thought were going to be the most important thing, which was the sort of constant evolution of people to work to create this perfect utopian world. And I think that getting in touch with the institutes of higher learning and giving them opportunities to have mentors and be able to work on real world problems in one of these largest living playground labs that we have here in Singapore with JTC is a fantastic opportunity to do this. And I now learned a new definition of 3D, which is the dirty, dangerous, and difficult things. So good to make sure you know what 3D you're talking about in the future if you're going to be asked to do any 3D work. And TRL, technology readiness level, some new acronyms, because you can't get through a day in Singapore without adding some new acronyms to your vocabulary. But next up, we have another segment of our very fun, what is it called? What's our segment called? Oh, dear. The Startup Unleashed with Atsushi. So this is where we get to reach out.
Don't forget.
Yeah. So today we got a really cool conversation coming up with some more 3D printing of materials, but not the bad 3D. So I guess Atsushi, you can over to you and craft help.
Yeah. So yeah, that was so exciting things in prototyping, and also of course the experience of the prototyping to commercialization. So actually that exactly we are trying to do, right? So alternative universal design for the city. Of course, city will have everything, many kind of things, and then try to prepare playground for innovators. So this is just the beginning. So we are not doing enough, but I think we're going to invite more and more young sort of talented innovators and also startup, and then to show that their technology, and also we're going to support them, right, continuously. And then today, I like to introduce another one. So yeah, Shane mentioned that Startup Unleashed. Actually, my name is Atsushi, and from Misuto, Singapore. And then Misuto is supporting young sort of innovators and also startup to make world better place. So we're gonna continue to support the young innovators to make something interesting happen, and also make good things happen. And then we have more than 200 sort of supporting globally across 15 countries. And then so we like to pick one startup per month, and who are actually trying to do the making a world better place. And also we ask their moment of the unleashed or leaping frog, because we are looking for like-minded people and startup. And today, so we are inviting, of course, because of the National Day is coming soon, and then we are inviting two genius researchers and also innovators from in NUS grad, and then PhD holders, and startup called Craft Health, and Wei Qian, and also Sen Han. So sorry, I'm not good at this pronounce the Chinese names, so you guys can correct. But it's so exciting 4D printing technology for healthcare. So printing actually basically pills and also medicine, but not just 3D. It's a 3D printing, but also one more dimension, which is a time dimension. So in total 4D. So it could be very interesting. And then, so please welcoming Wei-Jin and also Singham. So please come in.
Hi everyone. Hello. Hi Atishi. Thank you for introduction.
Hi. Hey. Can I see you guys' video?
Hi.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you. Go ahead. Yes.
Yep.
So please show for your innovations and also your genius talent.
Yeah. So just a quick introduction. My name is Wei Jiang, and my co-founder is Seng Han. We are both from Craft Health. So like what Atishi has said, we are a 3D printing startup that we are trying to simplify the process of pill taking for both patients and consumers. And to do so, what we are doing is basically to 3D print. different shape, size, geometries of different supplements or even pharmaceuticals. And then as what Atsushi has alluded, right, the fourth D, not 4D, but the fourth D, okay, is how it changes with time. So we are able to do controlled release. Right, some medicines require it to be released now in the body, some require it to be released later on after you have taken that tablet. So perhaps I'll just share a video of a quick introduction of what we are doing. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, can see.
There's no audio though. Is there supposed to be audio?
Okay. Give me a moment.
Yeah, you need to.
When you do the screen share, there might be a little checkbox on the bottom which says share computer audio. So you can stop sharing, and then when you start sharing again, try and look for that checkbox.
Yeah, new skill is required, even for PhDs. Can you see that?
Yeah,
when you share screen, the one checkbox underneath.
Yeah, sorry for technical difficulty. My screen just hang. So let me restart.
Okay. Okay. Take your time. Yeah, this would happen anyway. So Murphy's Law. Yeah, by the way, we are so interested in 3D printing and also additive manufacturing because it is kind of democratizing technology to wide range of people, right? Even maybe in the end consumers level, and which actually empowered people. Talked about the capitalism and also I think full control, but we believe that if we empower individual people, it could be great because they will be more independent, and then they can support each other. So then it could be much maybe better society we are thinking about it. So that's why we are so passionate about 3D printing technology, not just for the sake of the 3D printing, but we feel that the potential, because all those innovation will be available for many people, then I think many things could happen. So yeah, you're working on it?
Yeah, probably just give us some more time because I think the computer system has hanged. It's not responding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why it's freezing. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so by the
Sorry
way, maybe you can answer something. So
Sure.
I just want to know why you guys started this startup. Of course, you were expert of the 3D printing, things like that. But anything triggered you guys, to start?
Yeah, definitely. So I thought just some simple introduction to who we are. Basically, we are actually both registered pharmacists in Singapore. We have actually practiced for almost 2 or 3 years in Singapore General Hospital. So really, during that time that we were practicing, we actually see some issues or rather some problems that we see facing our general populations, especially the elderlies. So really, actually, every time we dispense the medicine to them, some of these elderlies, they go home with really huge bags of medicine. Some can be up to maybe 10 tablets in a day. Even some, those kidney patients, maybe 20. So a lot of them, whenever they go back, sometimes they give a puzzled look on their face. Really, we wonder how much of this complicated regimen do they actually understand in the sense whether to take it in the morning, afternoon, take it twice a day, 3 times a day. So we had this background information that we had on our mind. So after which, subsequently, we went on to actually do our postgraduate studies
where I had the chance to actually learn more and practice hands-on on 3D printing itself, understanding more about the technology and its potential for development. So we thought that it would be very useful and even great to actually have a pill that rules them all, something that actually helps people simplify the way that they take their medications. Or even this concept can be extended to daily consumers, even for their nutrition, their supplements. So really, this is why we actually started this startup.
But you know, startup is actually quite, you know, not easy, you know, path, right? So you guys, of course, can get any kind of job, and then, you know, potentially, you know, you can get many very good sort of salaries or something. And you took a sort of a tough path, which is startup. What makes you guys to pick and choose startup path, even though it's not easy?
Yeah, definitely. So some of peers actually went on to work on in pharmaceutical industry, Pfizer, GSK, and of course, definitely they're earning big bucks. But at least for us, we really felt that we had the skill set, the knowledge, and the ability to actually change, or rather change the practice of how people actually take their medications. And even those around us, some of our relatives, we do see them actually facing such issues. So we thought that really, since we have the ability to do so, why not just give it a go and see how far we can actually go on with this idea. And of course, we just graduated. What more can we lose? I mean, we don't have we're not going to create $1 million job. Yeah, why not? We just try it.
I see. Yeah. Well, actually, you know, it's a very good start earlier. Then I think you don't need to worry about it, and because starting point is zero anyway. So you can pick and choose, you know, startup paths, and then maybe it's not easy when you had the careers and 10 years, you know, sort of experience. Then change the job would be very tough. But that'll be great.
Right.
And then. So, and also I think we have discussed about sort of a potential of the on-demand printing, right? So 3D printing. So what kind of an impact you can make because of the potentially you can personalize, you know, nutrition and things like that, because at this moment, the product is basically the same for everybody. You know, it's more like a mass product, but the beauty of the 3D printing or printing is like a highly customized and also personalized. What do you think about the future of personalization or customization of the healthcare?
Definitely. So right now, the current situation is that all your different pills, your tablets are actually mass produced for everyone, so for the public. So there are always people who are so-called on the outliers, the top 5%, the bottom 5%. So really, with the ability to do personalization, be it in the dosage or the type of ingredients itself, we have the ability to accurately fabricate tablets that are uniquely suited for the individual. So of course, that is one. Two is, of course, if let's say for example, the elderly, we really have to take so many tablets in a day, we really can simplify the way that they have to take their medications. And at the same time, probably improve their quality of life, make them less of a hassle to actually take the medications. And of course, definitely, 3D printing itself allows us to decentralize this kind of manufacturing itself. So in the hopefully not so far future itself, we can even actually have the ability to fabricate this kind of personalized medicine from the comfort of your own home. Yeah.
Oh, at home printing. Wow, there's a personal pill will be available every morning automatically. That sounds great. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Reggie, come back.
I'm back.
So you can continue.
Sorry, my computer hang on me just now. So let's try it one more time.
Yeah, we continue the conversation. So please go ahead.
All right. Can you hear the sound?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Wei Jiang. I'm the co-founder of Craft Health as well as CEO.
Hi, my name is Seng Han. I'm the co-founder for Craft Health. We are a healthcare technology company. Basically, what we aim to do is to simplify the way that people, consumers or patients take their supplements or their medicine.
we saw that there's this big problem in the hospital previously when we were practicing as pharmacists. We saw many patients at the counter with bags of medicines, right? So you have diabetes, cholesterol medicines, hypertension medicines, so many medicines. And it's complicated. Some are taken in the day, some at night, before food, after food. So we thought whether or not there is a solution to solve all of this. And we settled on the solution of 3D printing, which my co-founder Seng Han was doing his PhD on.
Yep. So that's basically what we are doing here in Craft Health in a nutshell. And like what Atishi mentioned, right? You are talking about the fourth D, right? The 4D. So in the last few seconds,
I'm so interested in that.
Yeah. So what we can do is that imagine that pill that you have just taken is in your stomach, and that's what you would see if it's inside. And different pills, they have different times. So some of them they release it now, some of it they release later, some release over a longer period of time, and you can play around with it. And the idea is that you can combine not just one, but multiple of it into just one pill.
Oh, I see. How long, it can be, of course, usually within one day, right? But by using your technology, how long, I don't know, days or hours and can be delayed or controlled?
So what we have done is that we are able to have it sustained release, right, over 8 hours. And the reason why 8 hours is that typically in our body, food that we eat stays in the gut about 6 to 8 hours, then we pass out. So what we're able to do is to have it inside the body for as long as 8 hours. But I think one of the more interesting things that we can share is that we are also recognizing that why just combine multiple medicines into a single pill? That's resolving the number. Can we resolve the frequency at what you just said? So we are also looking at how we are able to have a pill that stays in the body longer than a day. So it could be 3 days, 4 days, or perhaps a week.
Oh, weeks.
Yeah.
Wow, it is possible. Almost 7 days. So you just one pill, and then
you settle it for
nothing for 1 week potentially. Oh, just 1 week and once a week, and then wow, that's very easy. I see. Could you share some sort of use cases like I think we discussed like even for athlete, like not just for the kind of nutrition, but maybe for athlete it could be good sort of athletes sometimes taking pills for energize and also boost up, and do you have sort of any use cases, something like that?
Yeah. So following our conversation previously, we were thinking about it, and we did some research, right? And we realized that athletes, they have very fixed regimes, exercise regimes, diet controls. So basically, the whole day, the whole week is already planned out for them. And what is interesting is that from there we are able to help to simplify the process. So imagine them taking a pill for supplementation for the early stage of training. Maybe it's not so intense. Later on, there is more intense training, and then subsequently you will have something to to cool down, and rest and recover. So you
I
can have
see, I
supplements
see.
for that every stage of the way, and you can do it in advance. And
Oh, I
what is
see.
interesting is that different athletes at different phases in their training, they also requires different kind of supplementation, right? Because they usually step up or step down, or they adjust the breadth of their training accordingly. So you can also personalize in that aspect for the athlete. And what it does is that it takes away the concern that, am I receiving enough supplements? Did I take my supplements? There's a million and one things that they already have to think about. And this sort of, push it right at the back of the mind. Just remember to take it once at the start of the day.
I see. That's great. So that's actually quite interesting because when it's personalized, that depend on the condition, maybe sensors and things like that could be required, but capturing data based upon the personal data, that you can change the nutrition. If we have that machine at home, so every day in the morning, is a personalized pill will be printed, and then just take it maybe once a week or twice a week. That would be very interesting. So. And then one more question is, obviously we are facing a COVID-19 kind of thing, and then do you imagine your technology can be addressing some sort of a issue, because COVID-19 is all about the healthcare issues, right? And of course, at this moment, no sort of a medicine and also no vaccine. But I heard that's quite important to maintain strong immune system, body, antibody, something like that. Do you see something opportunities for you?
Yep. So we see in a few perspectives. Of course, the most direct one is that you're able to personalize the supplements to the individual to boost the immunity, and that reduces how susceptible the person is to succumbing to a virus like COVID.
I see.
But if we zoom out, right, perhaps we can also look at it from another point of view, from the supply side, because you are able to 3D print the tablets, right? Basically, anywhere. And there are many issues now about supply chains, right? Supply chains are being disrupted, right?
Yeah.
So medicines that are produced, a lot of them are produced in India, some are produced in China. Maybe because of restrictions, they cannot move down.
Right.
So the idea is that at least we'll be able to have some decentralized form of manufacturing. And the idea is that, today it could be COVID, tomorrow it could be something else.
Different one, right?
Yeah, it'd be COVID-19 and COVID, 20 or 21. So and what it needs to print can be adjusted accordingly, right? So that's another case that we're looking at as well.
Yeah. So it's not just a personalized, but also I think adjusting to what for, right? And then the different purpose, of course, objectives need a different combination. So that's also customizable. And also, solving supply chain is a big deal, because we could not believe, long supply chain can be maintained under this pandemic, right? So it's quite broken. I see. Yeah, so maybe last question is that, it's kind of, since this is a start unleashed, right? So unleashed mean that, you could have something moment, right? When you guys decided to start up, or maybe you found something technological breakthrough. Wow, we found it. So you guys should have some sort of unleashed moment, now or in the past or now or sometime. So could you share that kind of unleashed moment especially for next generation founders, potential founders of startups?
Yeah, so I think one thing you can share is quite interesting. If you look back to way back, when both Sekhan and myself were doing our PhD, we wanted to do something different after we graduate, right? So we're always in the lab, always writing papers. After a while, it gets a bit boring, and we want to do something useful.
Right.
So one of the key things that we found that was very important for us was when we were practicing in pharmacies, we saw many patients going home with bags of medicines, right? Now, they have the 3 good friends, right? The cholesterol, hypertension, diabetes. You have medicine. So we started off thinking, how can we resolve that. Is there a way to make use of what we have learned? And we did not immediately settle on 3D printing. We went through a lot of different ideas,
options. I see.
Yeah, maybe an app, maybe a smart pill box, maybe this pill box that can prompt you to take your medicine. And there was this maybe about a week or so or more before we realized that actually what Senghan was doing could be used. So it was just right in front of us, but we did not see it, until suddenly, we saw that, oh, okay, maybe what Senghan was doing could be used to combine different medicines. And that was that moment that really, hey, actually, what he's been researching on could actually be used as a technology to resolve a very old problem. So it's a new approach to an old problem.
I see. So that kind of interesting moment happened. I think different perspective can come together, and you guys, okay, wow, interesting idea, and then let's start the startup. But I asked same question to Senghan, but start startup is not easy, right? So you have many options, right, in terms of jobs, right, and potentially high salary and very stable job, and parents will be happier,
especially in Singapore,
right?
yeah.
Happy, especially in Singapore. And I know many Singaporean maybe think about, I want to do, but maybe 99% cases take a safe side, right? Yes. You guys could be a rare, I don't know, 1%, 10% guys, right? Yeah. Why did you choose this the tough side?
Yeah.
Of stuff.
So we figured, after we graduate, right? I mean, definitely there are options waiting for us. But these are options that is tried and tested, right? And one thing that we were always looking for is, how do we learn
I see.
many things in a short period of time? And doing your own startup is a way to learn many things, not just the science, everything else.
Right. A lot, right?
A lot of things in a very short period of time. And you get curveballs thrown at you. You get COVID-19 suddenly appearing out of nowhere, and you have to adapt to it. So right. that is in a way a process where you can grow, and you can grow very quickly in a very short amount of time.
So in that sense, you guys are kind of interested in not just doing thing and job, but also I think potential of the growth, right? Learning, the process itself, you think much more enjoyable than just do some defined job in a large corporation and also large structure. I see. Very interesting. Okay, I think a time has come. So thank you so much. And then, of course, you guys are a part of our portfolio companies, of course, so we're going to support continuously. And then yes, I'm so impressed continuously, actually. And also, by the way, last question, then maybe prototyping perspective, when you guys could finish a sort of a prototype which will actually print some sample nutritions and also medicines?
Yep. So we are already able to 3D print some formulations, and we are getting tested. So that's the formulation part of it. The 3D printer part of it, actually, we are quite excited ourselves, is that we are also prototyping it, and it will be out sometime in September. So September we probably can invite you to come over, take a look at the machine, and it's the first prototype and how it works. So you can have not just the video, but the actual machine printing out the pills.
Yeah, great. Yeah, hopefully we can get one machine in JID so that we can get the pills and customized pills, and then we can be much healthier, because of the every day we can take it. All right. So thank you so much. And then, maybe when you finish the, the product, I think you guys can come again and then to show us. All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Atsushi. Thanks, Wei Jiang. Thanks, Singhan. So we are up to our last segment of today's program. Sorry for the delay in time. We'll be skipping the community chit chat. So next we'll be having Jaden to talk about what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, thanks, Jen, and thank you all for staying until now. I've been so inspired by all our different speakers. So for the last section of this, let's make it a fun exercise. So we are going to need your help in getting awesome recipes that could be forgotten in our there are forgotten recipes right now. So wait, what do you guys see? Do you guys see the slides?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so together with me is Erin. So we are part of Slice Robo Cafe. It's a self-sustaining farm-to-fork robo cafe that we've been working on. So for the next section, as mentioned, we will talk about food. So we are about to celebrate National Day, and I think it's very important that we celebrate one thing that Singaporeans have in common, which is our passion for good food. So food is closely linked with our memories, and it's often a good way to, break the ice in a room. So we need your help and your participation to revive forgotten recipes. So just a recap on, for those people who might be new to Slice Robo Cafe, we are actually an experimental food lab, and we are also looking at how do we create that circular food system that is sustainable. So it's a project it's a project by Mr. To and JTC at the Jurong Innovation District. So the cool part about it is that for Slice, we look at different problems from, the production of food to the logistics to the preparation, operation, consumption, and even recycling. So I think in order for us to achieve that circular food system and to promote sustainable and customized consumption, we need to look at how are people growing their food and how are people consuming their food. And that's why I think one of the new initiatives that we're looking at is to build an open source farm-to-fork repository. So this will be a virtual platform. Think about it as like a digital commons that will facilitate the information and knowledge sharing of local edible plants and also forgotten recipes. So through our early investigation, we realized that, in order to grow your own food in Singapore, there isn't a lot of consolidated information. Things are quite fragmented, and some of the information might not be catered to our local context. So we decided to, lower the barrier of learning by creating this virtual guide. And the focus of this guide will be mainly on the repository of edible indigenous crops that can be grown locally or climate that, grown locally or regionally that is extremely suited for our climate, right? So basically, there are so many different types of edible crops that have been discovered that we can consume, something about 200,000 edible crops that we can consume, but we only rely on 12 edible crops. So what's stopping us from tapping onto that nutrition to eat better, and also, share like the best farming practices that can incorporate tech in the right way, in the best way to enable like things like soy farming, right? Lastly, this will be a collection of local recipes. So we need your help. This is like sharing, so we can share with each other like the recipes that maybe our grandmother used to cook, and it can be like things that you miss, like when you go to the hawker centers like 10 years ago, and right now you don't find it so common anymore. So some food dishes can also be conventionally maybe a bit unhealthy, but how can we look at the future diet, cooking with sustainable products like plant-based protein? Yeah, so this is actually a mock-up that we did on the knowledge sharing platform Notion. So this is the farm element of it. So maybe documenting the indigenous edible crops, its functional benefits, growing know-hows, and also tying it into the signature recipes that you can create, after you harvest your crops. What do you do when you have harvested some moringa? So yesterday I just managed to harvest my first batch of moringa, and I managed to make like a milkshake and also some omelette. So I can actually contribute this to the platform, and then maybe Aaron has another dish that he would like to share as well. So this is the fork version, farm to fork version. So there are a few recipes that we have tried out which were quite interesting. So we were trying to like take away egg in kaya making. So we will introduce the pumpkin kaya. Very delicious. I think Aaron made that. And also another of our community member, Jeremy, he discovered this awesome ingredient, which is the watermelon rind. So it's actually the white part between the watermelon shell and also the flesh. So when you cook it, it actually has the texture of radish, right? So it's amazing. And someone with one watermelon, you can cook so many different meals. So it's something that we can do very easily, and you know, we can go towards zero waste and also have a tasty dish. Yeah. So Aaron, maybe you would like to share with us, what do you define, like how can we define forgotten dishes, and why is it so important that we need to preserve this?
Thanks, Jaden. So interestingly, this afternoon, early afternoon, I was talking to Erna. Erna is our in-house chef. We're talking about Satay Club, and it links to the picture that Jaden has prepared for us. So I'm not very sure whether does all of you remember that Singapore used to have an open air food center where we can taste delicious satay. It is actually located at Queen Elizabeth Walk. So it has been demolished in 1995, and it made way for Esplanade, which is the art center, and also for the Nicoll Highway extension. Right. So Singapore has changed over the last 20 years. 20 to 30 years has changed a lot, right? So, but our food culture probably won't change that much, and we want to preserve that. So, two heritage that we want to preserve is that, is there any forgotten dish there is in the hawker centers or in the food court? And the other thing that we want to preserve is that, is there any old grandmother dish that is used to prepare in the past, right? So these are the two things that we hope that we can recapture them. And we need your help to contribute to our open source recipes. Next slide, please. Right, so satay, I think nowadays we hardly see satay sauce in hawker centers. There's only a few that I could remember. Maybe one at Lorong 4 Toa Payoh, and another one at Chom Chom Serangoon Gardens. Right, so not all hawker centers has satays. And satays, I think in the past, they used charcoal to grill it. So it has a different flavor as compared to now. I think most of the satay stores now are using electric induction griller instead of charcoal, right? So yeah, I need all of you to help me in this exercise. It's going to be a very fun exercise because we're going to draw, right? So I need all of you to get your pen and paper, right? And then we're going to draw what is the forgotten dish that comes to your mind when we are talking about preserving our food heritage, right? So please give yourself about 5 seconds to grab a piece of paper and a pen that you can find that's near you, right? Has everyone gotten a piece of paper and pen or pencil?
Yes, I have.
Great. Thanks, Jeremy. What about the rest? I think there's still another 24 participants.
Yes.
Yes, I
Hey,
got my scrap paper.
Yes. So everyone should draw except me because I need to facilitate. Right, so spend the next 30 seconds to draw that forgotten dish that is either you haven't really seen it in food court or hawker center for quite a period of time, or there's some dish that your grandmother or maybe even your grandfather or your parents have cooked for you during your younger days, right? And it's so delicious that you will always forget to wash your hands and you will straight away go to the table and eat the food with your dirty hands, yeah, dirty fingers. Right. So your 30 seconds starts about 2 seconds ago. So you're left with about 28 seconds. Okay. Once you're done, I will volunteer a few of you to share the image that you have drawn, and we'll talk about it. Okay, I think you're left with about 15 seconds. Five more seconds. Okay. Jaden, possible for you to stop share
Okay.
screen? Yeah, so that I
Sure.
can see everyone's drawing.
Well, maybe we can get everyone to turn on their video if they're okay with it.
Yeah, man, everyone should turn on your video and to, show us your beautiful drawing. So I'll pick a few to kind of go through what you have drawn. Is everyone ready, or somebody needs some more time?
I think those that are using the virtual background have to turn off because it's quite hard to see when you're trying to show.
Yeah, I want to see real food, not virtual food. Okay, where's Walter? Maybe we start with Walter. I think Walter is very keen to share what he has drawn. No? You're not going to share, Walter?
Oh, Walter. Oh.
Yeah.
Walter.
Walter, sorry.
I've unmuted.
Use Alan.
Oh, can everyone guess what is this?
Blowfish.
Blowfish?
I think Atsushi would know what this is.
Fugu.
What kind of forgotten fish is this?
Oh.
Azushi, do you know what forgotten fish is this?
Yeah, maybe, yeah, blowfish or something. Or
Yeah, close.
Is that correct, Walter?
Not too good.
A bearded fish?
It's a poison fish, right?
No. He probably used to eat it in school lunches.
School lunches?
Shishamo? No.
He's not forgotten. He doesn't remember.
Can you show the fish again?
We don't know fish.
Younger than I thought.
Yeah, it was tasty, right?
It tastes like fishy beef.
Fishy beef.
Fishy beef.
No idea.
I have no idea.
Kujira.
Oh, is it?
What's that?
Whale.
Yeah, I think whale just now. But then you said school lunches. Did they serve whale at school lunches?
Long time ago.
Whoa.
Oh.
40 years ago, right?
Yeah,
no,
like,
50 years ago, maybe.
So you got it right.
After that, of course, a lot of negative sort of things happened, and that's why, they stopped to, hunt the whales, right?
So how is the dish being prepared? How's the whale fish being prepared?
Sashimi, deep fried, like a cutlet. You can have it stewed. You can. It's really fishy beef though. Like I've had it twice and I didn't like it both times.
Oh. What do you mean by fishy beef?
Like beef.
With a fishy smell?
With a fishy taste.
With a fish taste.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. I really can't imagine how it tastes like. You know, it tastes like beef with a fishy taste. Okay.
Actually, I think we can find canned versions of it, even here in Singapore, maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, we should try it next week. Yeah.
We need to change next week's menu then. Friday is well.
Let's make it front-based whale meat.
Front-based whale meat. Okay, thank you, Walter, for sharing. Thank you.
Oh, that's an excellent idea.
Yeah. Who else? Who I have never met before here? Melissa. Hi, Melissa. If you don't mind to share with us a drawing.
Hi.
Sorry, I just picked
my drawing.
Yeah. Oh, what is that?
Micro pizza.
Looks like dumpling. Is it dumpling?
Yes, it's No Hyang.
Okay. So, does your grandparents make you Ngoh Hiang in the past, or?
So this recipe has been passed down from my grandmother and to my mother, and now I'm making it as well, but plant-based version.
Oh, are you based in Singapore?
Yes.
Oh, then you should come over to Jurong and let's make the plant-based one.
Yeah, we make it with the Omni pork most recently. And for Chinese New Year, so we have this family ritual where we do for Chinese New Year once a year we will make the No Hyang together. Yeah, so I will make the plant-based version, and my mother will make the traditional version.
Oh, okay. So does your relative know which is the plant-based, which is the real meat?
I think a lot of people can tell the difference, but yeah, it tastes slightly different, but it still tastes really good.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So, yeah, I love Ngoh Hiang too because I also remember my grandma used to do it during festive season, especially Chinese New Year, but there's a lot of hard work. Yeah.
Yeah, it is quite hard. Takes some time, but then it's a labor of love.
Yes, and especially I think it's a bit like the bajang, if you wrap it wrongly and that's it, your hard work of preparing the ingredient is all gone.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You just have to have more skins, the beancurd skins.
Yes, looking forward to see you around at Jurong because the previous Ngoh Hiang that my chef made, we use the real minced meat to meat it. Yeah, because one of the chef is a Muslim, so we want to make it into meatless Ngoh Hiang. Yes. Thanks, Melissa.
Great.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank
Melissa, for
you.
sharing. Nowadays, it's so hard to find young people who knows how to make Ngoh Hiang. Yeah, I'm so surprised that Melissa knows how to do it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I don't know how to make Ngoh Hiang. I only know how to eat it. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's see who else that I don't know or haven't really seen for a long time. Who else is willing to share before I volunteer you? I think we can probably still have one more person to share. Sabrina?
Thanks. Okay, let me off my background first. Okay, so mine is I don't know, my drawing is not so very good, so if you can see, but I actually name it, it's an ice ball. I think you all have ice balls before, probably. Now you don't really see it much often, but it brings a lot of joy to people, young, old, But in the past, ice balls are dribbled with normal processed syrup, right? Something the way to go, probably we can use new innovative kind of juice syrups and stuff to, and still create that old dish into a new flair. That's me. Yeah.
So, Sabrina, when was the last time you have ice ball?
Wow, that's a sensitive question. Oh, okay. Wow. I think a good 25 years ago.
Wow. Okay. That was when Satay Club is still around. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So ice ball is kind of different from ice kacang stalls and all this, right?
Yeah, because you get your hands dirty in a way. So that's the yeah. But of course now with the gloves and everything, yeah.
Yeah. Shrey was saying that maybe we can have 3D printed ice balls. We can
Why
get,
not? Why not?
yeah. Maybe we can consult the 2 doctors that presented previously. Besides medicine, can they 3D print ice balls? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay,
something
thanks,
to bring
Sabrina.
cheer.
Yes, I love to eat ice kacang too. I think also now it's so difficult to find ice kacang also. Yeah. Okay. And thanks, Sabrina. Thanks for sharing. Okay, it looks like we probably still have time for one more. Let me see who else. Ellen, you're smiling at me. So do you have something to share?
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Okay. Yang then, you're also smiling at me. Yang, you have any drawings to share?
Everyone's so happy to see Aaron.
Yeah,
We're
man.
so happy to see you, Aaron. We're all smiling. Not just me. Okay. Okay, I don't have it on pen and paper, but I have it on auto draw. I'll probably have to
Okay.
share.
Yeah, can do a share screen.
Okay, this might be a bit difficult. It's like
wow,
I couldn't really draw it properly because it's quite difficult to draw. But I would say it's a vegetable dish. That's as much of a hint as I can give. It's actually quite rare. It's something that was prepared by my grandfather last time, my late grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah, so make a guess. The sauce is a little bit orangey, and then there are specks of red stuff inside.
Oh, the sauce is orangey.
Is it long bean, some sort?
It's not long bean, sorry. It's actually leaves, but it's a particular type of leaf. Yeah.
Oh, this is so hard.
It's a leaf dark green or like green.
It's dark green. It's dark green. Yeah.
Okay.
Morning glory. Right, morning glory. I'm not sure.
What color is the sauce orange?
It's not really okay. It's orangey brown, so I would say maybe like a hybrid of both. And yeah.
Is it a satay sauce? No.
It's not a satay sauce. Yeah.
Oh, satay sauce is not orange. Is it orange?
Yeah. Actually, the sauce is not the special one, but I think the leaves go very well with this particular sauce. So the sauce is, I don't think it is. I mean, you can still find a sauce around. You can make it at home as well, but I think it's a combination with this vegetable or this leafy vegetable that makes it good.
Yang, what dialect are you from?
So my mom's side is actually Hokkien and my dad's side is Hainanese. Yeah, but I'm not sure whether it's a Hainanese dish. Definitely not a Hokkien dish, I feel.
Is the vegetable a rare ingredient or the whole dish itself?
Actually, apparently
is a rare
not.
ingredient?
So this vegetable apparently grows quite easily in Southeast Asia, and different countries prepare it differently. But it's just I haven't really seen it around in like food centers, coffee shops, or even in I think I don't know. At least for me, I don't really see it like selling outside. So it's quite unique, I'd say. Yeah.
Yangan, is it chinchaloc
No,
and
it's not.
water spinach? No.
No, not.
Oh no. Okay.
Okay. Shall I reveal the
Yes.
dish?
Yeah.
I think we work our
Okay.
brains hard enough.
Okay, so it's actually this
I don't know.
this dish called money vegetable.
Money vegetable.
Thai.
Money Thai, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So my grandfather used to cook this with sambal belacan. Right? And usually when we have sambal, it's like sambal kangkong and whatnot. But The good thing about money Thai is because it has a very crunchy texture. So for me, I like vegetables like they are slightly tougher with a bit of bite, right? I don't like the super soft ones. So this one goes really well with salmon belacan. I can't really find it outside. In English, if I'm not wrong, it's called sweet leaf. Sweet leaf vegetable. So yeah.
So your dad only cook this once a month?
Sorry?
Sorry? Does your dad cook this money Thai once a month when he receives his salary?
Oh no, it's my granddad.
Oh, your granddad, okay.
Yeah, my granddad, yeah. He used to prepare it during Chinese New Year together with like Nonya Japchae kind of dishes. And then he would definitely prepare his signature spicy money Thai.
Okay. So next Tuesday we're gonna have some samba in the cafe. So maybe we can try to make this.
Vegetables. Yeah.
Yeah, find the money Thai. The money vegetable is not a money plant, right?
Oh no, please.
I used to think it was a money plant. For the longest time growing up, I thought that, if I eat it often enough, I'll become rich next time. I mean, it's not true. No, in Chinese, it's called mani cai. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Yang En, I'm growing some money Thai. Apparently it's very easy. You just have to do stem cutting. So we just cut and then root it a bit and then just pop it into soil and then you can multiply. Apparently they use money Thai for ban mian also. Yeah.
Okay.
But I've never had it with ban mian lah. But I think it's a traditional way of doing things.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can try it.
Yeah, please bring on Tuesday. We will have some samba. Yep. Okay. Thanks, Yang for sharing. I guess in view of time, there is much that we can allow the participants to share, right? So Jayden, you're going to share screen again?
Yeah.
Oh, Jayden, you're going to do the poll, right?
You can do the poll. You can update us what can we look forward to for the open source recipe platform.
Yeah. So
there's something coming up, right?
Yes, in order to have a successful open source platform, it's not possible for just a few of us to make it happen. We need all of you here and maybe even reaching out to your grandparents or your parents to help us to build this open source platform so that more of us and maybe even our neighbors up north and down south are able to share the unique Singapore food culture, right? So what's going to happen is that those who are interested to participate and to join us in this journey to find food recipes, food heritage recipes, please indicate in the poll later, right? And then we will get in touch with you. So what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks is that we're going to announce a date where we will get my chef, Anna, to do a inclusive virtual cook show. She's going to share with you how to make the recipe inclusive so that even the blind can cook as well once they receive a recipe, right? Yep.
What is the problem with common recipe nowadays, Aaron? Like, why is it not inclusive?
So the challenge, even for me myself, actually, sometimes when I like recently, I was trying to make peanut butter. So when I followed the recipe, right, the recipe said, roast the peanut butter until golden brown. So instead of me standing there and make sure that I will fish out the peanuts when it's golden brown, I just utilize my other senses, like my sense of smell. So instead of golden brown, actually the peanut was overcooked. So after that, I have a chowta peanut butter, right? So I think to be inclusive, we need more data we need more indicators actually in the recipe. Instead of just saying, deep fried or roast it to be golden brown, we should put some time to it. Like for example, we should roast the peanut butter to 4 minutes in 180 degrees Celsius. Yeah, so this kind of data is more helpful for first-time bakers who wants to do their own peanut butter, or even for the blind, because the blind, they can't see or they can't see well. So leveraging on time and precise temperature, that would be easier for them. Yep.
Oh, thanks for sharing. Okay, Jen, do you want to do the poll now?
Yep, the poll will be launched in a second.
All right. So if you'd like to follow our updates for the open source farm to fork repository, maybe you can say yes, and then we can keep you in the loop via email and invite you guys for the inclusive cooking show. Yep.
Mm. Right. So those who will be, those who are okay to take part in this project with us, please keep your drawings because, like I said, unfortunately due to time, we couldn't get everyone to share the forgotten dish. So please keep your drawings so that we could do more sharing in the future. Yeah, I would really love to learn what are other forgotten foods beside the mani chai, the ngor hiong, and also the ice balls. Yeah.
And the whale.
Yes, the whale. Sorry. Yep.
But it might be better forgotten. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Plant-based whale. Plant-based whale. Yeah.
Plant-based whale.
Whale.
All right. I think we're
Yeah.
good
Okay, I hand the time over back to Jayden.
to say to you, Jen.
Thanks everyone for staying with us all the way. I know it's a pretty long program, but we're looking forward to I guess seeing you guys in person